Chapter 9:37. An outsider has invaded our world. How dare they? It's always been us conquering other worlds. No one has ever dared to target our universe. Where did this outsider come from? How dare they act so recklessly? I've been invincible in our universe for far too long. It's a pity that the great Lord of Burning Blood wasn't willing to take me with him in the last war, so I didn't have the honor of fighting other beings of the Chaosverse. In the previous rounds of attacks, the invading worlds were weak and didn't give me a chance to display my strength. Now that an outsider has invaded our universe, let's see what kind of ability these beings who can traverse the void have. The powerful beings outside the Eternal Shrine exuded a terrifying aura of life and rapidly approached it. Zabulu, Teblink of the Dawn Church, resplendent star of the Grey Tower, and Long Chi of the City of Myriad Worlds, who had dared to announce themselves in front of the Lord of Burning Blood, strode forward with great strides, looking like they were about to barge into the Eternal Shrine. They're here. So many heavenly monarch realm, great divine abilities. 300, no, at least 400 heavenly monarch realm, great divine abilities, especially the four leaders. They've definitely reached the level of absolute masters. No one can resist this force. Even if they were to surround and kill the divine beast primogenitor, it wouldn't be a problem. Despair filled immortal Emperor Songhai's eyes. He was only an exalted immortal emperor, the equivalent of a ruler in the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos. He wasn't even a great master yet, so any one of the approaching 400 great masters had the power to kill him. Even though Tsing Hui had the strength to stand above the god ranking, he still didn't have the confidence to face off against several hundred great masters. Besides, it had only been a short while since more than 400 great masters had gathered outside the Eternal Shrine. Even though the Eternal Shrine was located in a special location and was essentially a gathering place for experts, it was still possible to infer that there were at least 2,000 great masters in this part of the Chaosverse. Once he was entangled with these 400 great divine arts practitioners, the 2,000 great divine arts practitioners would rush over and only death would await him. I can't force my way in. Tsing Hui's mind spun rapidly as his gaze landed on the will that permeated the entire Chaosverse. If he guessed correctly, that will was probably equivalent to what the immortal Tao civilization called the Celestial Will. Since the evil god, the Lord of Searing Blood, had extracted most of his consciousness and power from this world, forming a powerful combination of power that was equivalent to his true form and infiltrating the Lord of Chaosverse. The Lord of Searing Blood didn't have much consciousness left in his own Chaosverse. He could only follow his instincts and maintain the normal operation of his Chaosverse, which gave the Lord of Searing Blood an opportunity. I'm a Chaos life form. Chaos life forms don't have a fixed form, and their essence is completely identical to the Lord of Burning Blood. In other words, I can imitate the Lord of Burning Blood's incarnation. With that thought, the law fragment that Tsing Hui had yet to hand over to the evil god, the Lord of Burning Blood, appeared in his hand. With the power of the uniting Tao and the illusory, immortal Tao civilization, he almost instantly analyzed the power of law contained within the law fragment. His aura also changed rapidly in the process, and even his appearance changed slightly. As Tsing Hui gained the characteristics of a Lord of Searing Blood's great Tao, he keenly sensed an indescribable connection between himself and the Chaosverse. He felt as if he was a dragon swimming in the ocean. Everything in the ocean revolved around him. He had truly become the center of the entire chaotic universe. It was as if he could change the will of the entire chaotic universe with a single thought. However, the sensation didn't last long. A vast and mighty will descended upon him from the void and locked onto him. But it wasn't as hostile as it had been before. With his keen senses, Tsing Hui could vaguely sense the confusion and bewilderment in the will. It clearly couldn't understand why Tsing Hui's law fluctuations were almost identical to his own. It looks like I won't be able to hide it for long. Tsing Hui's heart sank when he sensed the wolf spying on him, but his expression didn't change. Lord Tsing what are you? Immortal Emperor Hai watched as Tsing Hui's aura rapidly changed, and a trace of confusion appeared on his despairing face. Whoosh! Tsing Hui sensed the peak experts rapidly approaching from the outside. With a wave of his hand, the power of law enveloped Immortal Emperor Hai, causing him to become blurry. At the same time, the four supreme experts and many cultivators with great abilities finally made it into the Divine Hall. Their gazes landed on Qing Su as soon as they entered. When these people's gazes fell on Tsing Hui unhesitatingly used the law of the Burning Blood Lord as a cover and fully released his aura, which was equivalent to that of a 10-vein or even 11-vein expert. For a moment, a vast and resplendent shadow of a universe seemed to appear above his head. The projection of this shadow formed an inconceivable pressure that fiercely attacked the four sovereigns and the many great masters who had broken into the temple. Immediately, these great masters who had broken into the temple were shaken. Some of the great masters with weaker wills and lower cultivation bases felt the terrifying pressure from Tsing Hui's body, which was not something they could possess. After sensing the law aura that belonged to the Burning Blood Lord, they actually knelt down and respectfully shouted, "Greetings, my lord. My people, I have sent down a clone to assist you in hunting down the two otherworldly visitors. Now, what are you waiting for?" Qing Su ignored the regular great ability masters who had knelt on the ground due to his pressure. Instead, he looked at the four sovereigns at the front, as well as over a dozen experts who were close to the level of sovereigns. His eyes were filled with extremely great pressure. "My lord, the great priest who was the leader of the four sovereigns, who was roughly equivalent to a grand expansion sacred exalt, bowed hesitantly and said, 'But, according to the guidance of your will, the otherworldly visitors seem to be in this temple. We don't know where the otherworldly visitors went the moment they arrived in our universe. Because of this, I immediately used what little power I had to seal off the entire chaotic universe to prevent them from escaping. Now, what you need to do is find them for me as soon as possible and inform me. When the time comes, I will personally head over and capture them in one fell swoop. I will interrogate them for the coordinates of their universe and begin a new expedition.'" High Priest Zabulu sensed the omnipresent and mighty will that towered above the 9 heavens. Even though the will of the universe seemed to indicate that the target was in the shrine, compared to before, the will of the universe had clearly become a little blurry, as though it was no longer certain of the location of the otherworldly visitors. In addition, this being exuding a terrifying pressure indeed carried the power of laws of the master of the universe, the Burning Blood Lord. As the High Priest, Zabulu didn't dare to resist or question it. He could only respectfully reply, "In accordance with the will of my lord, we will definitely find those otherworldly invaders and bring them to you." After saying that, he bowed respectfully and retreated. Seeing that great priest Zabulu had retreated, the other 3 sovereigns and existences who were close to the level of a sovereign bowed at the same time and retreated out of the temple with reverence. Then, they quickly left in groups of 3 to 5 and flew off in all directions. Phew! Tsing Hui heaved a sigh of relief when he saw these powerful existences leave one after another. Beside him, Immortal Emperor Hai opened his mouth in disbelief. He wanted to ask what had happened, but he did not know where to start. The will of the universe is ultimately a big problem. Tsing Hui raised his head and glanced at the will of the universe that was still hovering above him in the sky with a heavy heart. The will of the universe was constantly looking at him. Although he had temporarily fooled the will of the universe by relying on the law fragment of the Burning Blood Lord, it would not take long for the will of the universe to detect him. After all, the difference between the Burning Blood Lord and the will of the universe was equivalent to the difference between the original body and the incarnation. He could deceive others, but he could not deceive the incarnation of the Burning Blood Lord. Once the will of the universe discovered his true identity, it would lead other powerful existences to chase after him. No matter how many tricks he had up his sleeves, he would only be annihilated by thousands of powerful existences. I have to avoid the will of the universe. Qing Su was in a hurry, but he just happened to have no better ideas. He did not even dare to leave the Eternal Temple for fear that this action would arouse the will of the universe's suspicion and lead to disaster. Lord Xinghui, what should we do next? Immortal Emperor Songhai was clearly flustered. Immortal Emperor Songhai's reaction was completely reasonable for a ruler to be pursued by thousands of powerful existences. Next, Xinghui could not think of a better idea. In the end, he could only look at the spatial creation artifact that had been teleported here with him and refined from a part of the burning Bloodlord's body. We can only pray that the will of the universe does not detect our presence for the time being. At the same time, we have to increase our strength as quickly as possible before it does. Xinghui paused for a moment. The correct way to put it was for Xinghui to increase his strength as quickly as possible. If he could refine the fragments of the laws of the 12 divine beasts and become a true creature of chaos, he would definitely be able to kill the clearly weakened Lord of Burning Blood easily. At that time, all the wealth he had accumulated over countless years would belong to him, Qing Su, even if he couldn't break through and become a true chaos life form. As long as he could refine the 12 types of Grand Tao laws, his combat strength would still skyrocket by several times. At that time, if dozens or hundreds of powerful existences attacked him, he would be completely capable of swiftly killing them and retreating swiftly. Even though it would still be dangerous, he wouldn't have to entrust his life and death to an unknown fate like he did now. Thinking of this, he awakened Scarlet Abyss without hesitation. Scarlet Abyss, it's up to you now. I will do my best to help you refine this spatial creation artifact. I don't expect you to completely refine it, as long as you can first open a hole for me to take out the item inside. Chapter 9:38. The Scarlet Abyss sword immediately stopped smelting the Creation Divine artifact and quickly turned its attention to the Spatial Creation Divine artifact that contained many fragments of laws. Rather than calling it a creation artifact, it was more accurate to call it a rough embryo of a creation artifact that had yet to take shape. This undoubtedly greatly reduced the Scarlet Abyss sword's refinement of it. In addition, Xinghui's request wasn't to completely refine the creation artifact into the Scarlet Abyss sword. Instead, he only needed to chisel a hole on the outside to further reduce the difficulty. In less than 10 years, Xinghui and the Scarlet Abyss sword had worked together to chisel a hole in the rough embryo of the spatial creation artifact. The moment he did so, the aura of the nomological fragments surged out. At first glance, Xinghui could sense the information of no less than 100 nomological fragments. Over 100 nomological fragments. This number made Xinghui's breath catch in his throat. That's before Xinghui had time to be shocked by the huge number of nomological fragments. A huge corpse at the core of the small world quickly attracted his attention. It was the corpse of a divine beast with a human head and a snake body that resembled the human race's ancestor, Saint Hua. White Dragon. Divine Beast White Dragon. When the Burning Blood Ruler had killed his way into the Master of Chaos universe, he'd killed 6 divine beasts, including White Dragon. White Lion was rumored to be the disciple of Saint Nuwa from the immortal Tao civilization. There were even rumors that she was Saint Nuwa's daughter. She was one of the 12 divine beasts of the Lord of Primal Chaos, and was in control of the vital laws of creation. White Dragon, Yuing by Tian Yujia. The 12 divine beast laws are finally complete. Xinghui's gaze swept across the nomological fragments one by one. The 12 divine beast laws. Not a single one was missing. He only needed to refine these nomological fragments to complete the 3rd level of the Tao Disc. At that time, he could wait for an opportunity to transform into a true chaos life form. There's no time to lose. I'll start refining these nomological fragments right away. Start with Xinghui's gaze pause for a moment on the nomological fragments before finally landing on White Dragons. The law of creation. Perhaps it can help me escape my current predicament. Thinking of this, Xinghui did not hesitate to take out the fragment of nomological laws and let immortal Emperor Songhai warn him. Then he began to comprehend it. Time passed. Soon, 100 years had passed. In the past 100 years, the Eternal Shrine had not been peaceful. Not only had the High Priest Zabulu requested to see him twice, but there were also 3 unfamiliar Supreme Masters who had appeared. In addition, the will of the entire universe had been hovering in the void, constantly communicating with Xinghui. From its increasingly intense actions, it was not difficult to determine that the patience and suspicion of the will of the universe had reached its limit. Lord of Searing Blood's true body, which had been sealed by Xinghui in the Void Heaven Ring, was constantly trying to break out of the Void Heaven Ring and return to his chaotic universe. For 100 years, Xinghui had been completely in a precarious situation. Any exposed flaw could lead to unmanageable consequences. Under such tremendous pressure, Xinghui's refinement of the nomological fragments had reached its peak. Originally, it would have taken him 200 years to refine the divine beast law of White Dragon, but in 100 years, he had thoroughly understood the mysteries of creation. You can give it a try now. Xinghui's gaze fell on immortal Emperor Songhai. I've just mastered the power of the law of creation. Next, I have a method that will allow you to reincarnate and completely change your life and soul fluctuations. This will allow you to avoid the will of the universe and even the pursuit of many great masters. However, the biggest problem with this method is that before you awaken, you'll always be in a weak state. If you encounter any danger at this time, you'll truly die. Therefore, I need you to make a choice. How long can we last without being discovered by the will of the universe? Immortal Emperor Songhai asked. Xinghui raised his head and glanced at the will of the universe that was staring at him and had already mobilized the power of laws to penetrate his body. After a moment of consideration, he said, I don't know how long I can last. According to the reaction of the will of the universe, it may be the next moment, or maybe another 1 or 200 years. In other words, you can only last 1 or 200 years at most. Xinghui nodded. I choose to reincarnate. Immortal Emperor Songhai said solemnly. Xinghui looked at Immortal Emperor Songhai with some guilt in his heart. If he hadn't asked Immortal Emperor Songhai for help, Immortal Emperor Songhai wouldn't have ended up like this. How could the evil god's scheme be something that people like them could easily resist? I've learned a little during this period of time. The chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord is somewhat similar to that of the Lord of Gods. It's composed of many planes. These planes can be divided from small to large into secondary planes, primary planes, and higher planes, which roughly correspond to the 4 stages of the Saint Realm, and Chaos Realm. I'll send you to a relatively peaceful secondary plane. I hope you can grow up safely in that world and complete the transformation of your life aura and soul aura. Reaching there, Ching Su paused slightly. The secondary plane is safe, but there's a drawback, and that's that it grows slower, so your awakening time will be slightly longer. However, I'll leave an imprint on you. If you haven't awakened yet, I'll go to the secondary plane to find you. Of course I trust you, Lord Xinghui. Therefore, I'll have to ask you to help me, Lord Xinghui. Immortal Emperor Songhai had lived for countless years, so he tried his best to appear magnanimous at this time to avoid too much psychological burden on Xinghui. There's no time to lose. Let's go now, Xinghui said. He wrapped Immortal Emperor Songhai with the power of laws and walked out of the Eternal Shrine. Almost as soon as Xinghui walked out of the Eternal Shrine, the auras of more than a dozen great masters and the will of the original operation of the universe descended from the sky at the same time and locked onto Xinghui. Among the great masters, a man whose battle strength was close to that of a sovereign respectfully asked, My lord, do you have any orders for us? This was a high priest and the most capable assistant of the high priest. It's been 100 years, and you still haven't brought me any useful information. You've truly disappointed me, and I've lost my patience with you. Thus, I don't intend to continue waiting like this. I will personally go to find those otherworldly invaders and capture them. Sing Hui said indifferently. My lord, please give us some more time. Your people promise you that we'll definitely bring you satisfactory answers in 300 years at most. Aoya said respectfully. However, he stood in front of Sing Hui's path and did not intend to let him leave. Moreover, 300 years, that in itself represented something. This was because Sing Hui could not last another 300 years under the watchful eyes of the universe's will. Even 200 years was a problem. Huh. Who gave you the courage to block my path? Sing Hui's expression suddenly became extremely stern. Before Aya, who was not inferior to Great Emperor Qi Shao, could react, he had already unsheathed his sword. The Scarlet Abyss sword was based on the Coalescence Great Tao and surrounded by other Great Tao laws. Finally, it was disguised by the power of laws of the Burning Bloodlord's power of laws and slashed straight at Aya. In an instant, the sword wind formed a sword chi storm, causing Aya, who wanted to block it, to retreat rapidly. Even so, he was still a little slower. The sword chi that erupted from the Scarlet Abyss sword carried the power to cut through the void and pierced countless holes in Aoya's body. Moreover, it plowed out of the eternal shrine with undiminished momentum, leaving behind 100 million kilometer wide chasm in the void outside the shrine. This chaotic universe actually has such a strong restriction on extraordinary power? Is it because the universes will sealed off extraordinary power when it sealed the universe 100 years ago? Or does the universe itself have such a strong restrictive force? Or am I being targeted by the universe's will? After slashing out with his sword, Sing Hui quickly sensed the universe's restrictive effect on him, or rather, on this world. Sensing the hostility of the universe's will, Sing Hui's expression changed slightly. Ignoring Aoya's frantically retreating body, he took a step forward and disappeared into the horizon. This is definitely not the power of our Lord. Although this power is so strong that it is not inferior to the power of our Lord's incarnation, the essence of this power is definitely not our Lord's. I must immediately pass this news to the high priest. This evil god from another world dares to blaspheme our Lord. He will be condemned and punished by the heavens. Aoya growled and quickly rushed in the direction of the high priest. Although there were also many powerful existences outside the shrine, they could not help but slow down when they saw that Aoya was defeated by Sing Hui in a single blow. In this moment of delay, Sing Hui had already rushed out of the range of the eternal shrine. It was no longer easy for them to surround and catch up to him again. Whoosh! Sing Hui's figure shuttled back and forth, trying to get rid of those powerful existences. But soon, his expression became solemn. The universe's will. The universe's will was actually constantly casting its gaze on him. No matter where he fled to, as long as he was still in this chaotic universe, he could not escape the prying eyes of the universe's will. With the guidance of the universe's will, no matter where he fled to, those powerful existences would catch up with him at the fastest speed. Rumble! Sing Hui shuttled back and forth, quickly breaking through the barrier between the higher plane and the main plane. Then, without waiting for the universe's will to catch up, he directly stimulated the power of laws that belonged to the Burning Blood Lord to the extreme and temporarily obtained the right to use the entire universe. Relying on this temporary right to use the main plane, the rules of the main plane seemed to be blocked by him at this moment. Even the universe's will could not penetrate. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sing Hui's gaze fell on a huge country in front of him. To be precise, it was in the body of a pregnant concubine in the imperial palace of that country. Don't resist. Sing Hui growled at immortal Emperor Songhai. The law of creation operated, and in an instant, immortal Emperor Songhai was transformed into a life force that entered the body of the concubine. Phew! After sending immortal Emperor Songhai away, Sing Hui exhaled deeply. Looking at the law fragment that was about to be exhausted, his expression darkened. I have to hurry as well, but I've already comprehended the law of creation, so it won't be difficult for me to awaken my memories. Sing Hui's eyes darted around. Soon, a large territory tens of millions of kilometers away from here attracted his attention. Because he was currently in the state of fusing with the law fragment of the burning bloodlord, he had almost obtained full authority over the entire chaotic universe. Relying on the wonders of this authority, he faintly sensed that there was a considerable mystery hidden in that territory, as if there was a passage that extended beyond the main plane and even into the distant chaotic void. Could it be that there's a way to smuggle me out of this world in that territory? This thought flashed through Tsing Hui's mind. However, the will of the universe was about to enter this world, so he didn't have much time to think. First, he poured all the power in his body into the Void Heaven Ring in his hand, reinforcing the Void Heaven Ring seal to prevent Burning Bloodlord from escaping during this period of time. Meanwhile, he refined the small world that belonged to Burning Bloodlord into the Scarlet Abyss sword, then put the Scarlet Abyss sword back into his body. Rumble. Just as Tsing Hui was about to activate the law of creation and turn into a beam of light and fly toward that territory, a terrifying shockwave spread out. Under the influence of a great force, the entire main plane seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Not good. Tsing Hui's expression changed. Someone wants to destroy this plane. I have to lure them away. He'd actually overlooked this point. With that in mind, he forcefully split off a portion of his soul and fused it back into the law fragment that belonged to the burning bloodlord. Forcefully splitting his soul without any preparation at all immediately dealt severe damage to Ching Su's consciousness. The intense pain knocked him unconscious on the spot. As he fainted, all he could do was vaguely give an order to the power of the soul he had split off from his clone. Lure them away. Lure all of the pursuers away to another plane. The farther away, the better. 5 chapters, please recommend me. Chapter 9:39. He did not know how much time had passed. The injury caused by the forceful splitting of his god's soul was slightly alleviated. Tsing Hui, who was in a daze, suddenly woke up. Tsing Hui, who opened his eyes, was keenly aware of the abnormality of his body. However, it was right that he was different. In order to avoid the prying eyes of the will of the universe, he used the law of creation to reshape himself from the inside out. It would be strange if he was still exactly the same as before. Tsing Hui looked around. This was a rather spacious courtyard. The scenery of the courtyard was extremely charming, and it showed that this family was rich and powerful. Considering that he had chosen to reshape his life as a great feudal lord, this kind of treatment was reasonable. He looked at his own body. He should be 100 years old, which meant that he had lost consciousness for at least 100 years. In the past 100 years, this life had instinctively derived a consciousness. But this consciousness had been completely devoured by Tsing Hui the moment he woke up. Tsing Hui closed his eyes and carefully recalled. Although that consciousness was a derivative of his main consciousness, Tsing Hui himself was a powerhouse who had climbed to the peak of cultivation. If he did not take into account the fact that he was ganged up on, his cultivation base could easily defeat anyone except for the will of the universe. With such a strong foundation, the consciousness he derived had been extremely outstanding since young. In just 100 years, it had cultivated the cultivation system of this world to the intermediate silver level. The cultivation system of this world was much simpler than the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos. It could be roughly divided into 11 major realms: mortal, transcendent, iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, astral, moonlight, glorious sun, and legendary. Because this world greatly suppressed the power of law, the mortal and transcendent realms directly included the immortality realm and the saint realm. Above that was iron to legendary, which corresponded to the 6 divine realms and the 3 chaotic realms. The intermediate silver level was equivalent to the vacuum-crushing level in the divine realm. It didn't seem very high, but because the resources in the mortal plane weren't as plentiful as those in the higher realms, most people would choose to leave the mortal plane and enter the higher realms after reaching the astral rank. As a result, there were usually only a few hundred or even a few dozen astral and moonlight ranks in the mortal plane. That was the rank from world creation to autarch. In other words, the cultivation level of a main plane was similar to that of the Kuan Dragon world and the True Sun world, but its surface area was much larger. Under such circumstances, a 100-year-old void-shattering realm expert was naturally outstanding. Tsing took a look at the memories and heaved a sigh of relief. It seems that the will of the universe did not see through my disguise at the last moment. In the end, he looked at his bracelet. This bracelet was the Void Heaven Ring, which was his companion. As for what was sealed inside, needless to say, it was naturally the Burning Blood Lord. In the final moment, when he used the laws of creation, he channeled most of his power into the Void Heaven Ring and sealed up the Lord of Burning Blood. As a result, the Lord of Burning Blood, who was already extremely weak, became completely feeble after intimidating Qing Su. When Qing Su used the laws of creation to reincarnate, the Lord of Burning Blood also sank into a state of slumber, never waking up even now. Fortunately, I haven't woken up yet. Otherwise, if the Burning Blood Lord started to cause trouble now, I really wouldn't have any way to stop him. Tsing Hui withdrew his gaze from the Void Heaven Ring and quickly sensed the immortal Tao civilization in the depths of his mental world. Too much power had been used to seal the Void Heaven Ring, so the immortal Tao civilization's illusory world also looked a little dim. Fortunately, the foundation of the immortal Tao civilization was the creation jade, so its foundation was impregnable. Even if the immortal Tao civilization dimmed, it showed no signs of collapse. As long as he spent some time recovering, the immortal Tao civilization would be able to shine again. He could also slowly refine the other 3 law fragments into the Unity Great Tao and complete the 3rd level of the Tao Disc. The laws of this world have almost been completely sealed off by the will of the universe. Tsing Hui frowned slightly after sensing the great Tao laws in the world. At this rate, it'll take 30 to 40,000 years for this world to recover to its peak. Only then can I begin to refine the law fragments. The recovery rate is more than 100 times slower than in the Lord of Chaos domain. Even if I can enter the chaos, I can still compress the recovery time to less than 3,000 years. Tsing Hui recalled the faint passageway that seemed to be connected to the chaos in this domain and immediately reinvigorated himself. If he wanted to escape this world, he would probably have to make a move on this family. Let me see what's so special about this family. Tsing Hui spread his divine will at once, enveloping this large domain that spanned over 100,000 kilometers. Against the power of laws, this world calls it extraordinary power. The will of the universe's suppression of extraordinary power is truly formidable. According to the information I received before 200 years ago, before I came to this universe, the Pinnacle Platinum Champions could still destroy a mountain range over 10,000 kilometers in a single blow despite the universe suppressing the display of extraordinary power. Legendary champions at the Pinnacle could even destroy a main plane with a diameter of 100 trillion kilometers in a single blow. But 200 years ago, the activity of extraordinary factors in the universe fell to an unprecedented low. Today, even a Pinnacle Platinum champion would tire himself half to death just to destroy a mountain range over 1,000 kilometers in a single blow, let alone a mountain range over 10,000 kilometers in a single blow. The direct effect of the decreased activity of extraordinary factors was a decrease in destructive power. However, Tsing Hui understood that the greatest effect was actually the ability to travel between planes, making it extremely difficult to cross the barriers between universes. Without extraordinary factors, it was equivalent to not being able to borrow the power of laws. Without the power of laws, it was almost impossible to transcend this chaotic universe and escape into the chaos. This was a change made by the will of the universe to trap him. It was equivalent to turning the entire chaotic universe into a prison to imprison an intruder like him. If it's only because I offended the Burning Blood Lord, he shouldn't have mobilized so many people to deal with me. There's an 80 to 90% chance that he guessed that the Fortune Divine Jade Fragment is with me, because he was the one who stole the Fortune Divine Jade Fragment from the Primal Chaos Master. He also knows that the Fortune Divine Jade is in the Divine Wilderness Great World, and that I was born in the Divine Wilderness Great World and rose to power in such a short period of time. After understanding the cause and effect of this matter, Tsing Hui was even more anxious to escape from this chaotic universe. This family, there's a very strange area in this area. It doesn't seem to have any secrets, but in fact, it's because of an extremely clever disguise. Unfortunately, I can't see through this disguise in my current state. If I'm not mistaken, the secret of this territory that I learned 100 years ago is hidden in that area. Tsing Hui's divine sense swept the area for a moment before quickly withdrawing it. His power system was different from the power system of this world. Even if it was of a much higher grade than this world's, he didn't dare to use it without restraint, lest someone use some special technique to detect it. Ani, why are you still here? The elders of the Council of Elders are about to arrive. Every time they leave the mountain, they'll select a few disciples and bring them back to the ancestral land for training. Even if we can't be chosen by the elders, if we perform well, we'll be able to raise the ranking of our family successors and receive resources for the next 10 years. Just as Tsing Hui was digesting the information left behind by this body, an anxious voice sounded. At the same time, a woman who was much older than him arrived. Thanks to the memories of this body, Tsing Hui quickly figured out who this woman was. She was Angie, this body's older sister. I'll be right there, Tsing Hui said. Thanks to your age, your ranking has risen from 109th to 94th. You've made it into the top 100. You're the one closest to success in our bloodline. No matter what, you have to fight for our honor. Even if you don't want to go to the ancestral land, you have to get more resources. Only then will you have hope of becoming an elder of the family and leading our bloodline to prosperity. Angie pulled Tsing Hui toward the center of the territory, the ancestral land. Tsing Hui thought carefully and immediately understood. The ancestral land of the Yin family was the special area that had been disguised by an extremely clever method. Very good. Tsing Hui's thoughts turned, and he quickly asked, I want to compete for the opportunity to go to the ancestral land. What do you think? The Yin family was one of the top aristocratic families. There were dozens of astral realm ancestors in the family. However, Tsing Hui had just used the power of the illusory immortal Tao world to sense that there were many legend rank experts hidden in the family. However, these people were hidden very well. Even Tsing Hui couldn't catch their real traces. Go to the ancestral land? The possibility is too low. If you want to go to the ancestral land, only the number one person in the 3 groups has the right to go. If you had your current cultivation 10 years ago, there would be a glimmer of hope. But now you're 109 years old. You've been divided from the youth group under 100 years old to the youth group between 100 and 300 years old. There are dozens of people in the youth group who are at the intermediate silver rank like you. The most outstanding ones, Angie, Anya, and Anthony, are all at the beginner gold rank. You don't have much hope against them. That's not necessarily true. Angie, Anya, and Anthony, the youngest of the 3, Anya, is already over 240 years old. I'm only 109 years old. If we're both at the gold rank, I believe that the ancestor will choose me in the end, not them. Angie was stunned by Tsing Hui's words. Both at the gold rank? The next moment, she was pleasantly surprised. You're at the gold rank? How is that possible? There's a crucial factor between the gold and silver ranks, and that's to condense a gold body. To do that, you need a lot of resources. Since you've only broken through to the intermediate silver rank less than 10 years ago, our family hasn't started preparing for you. How did you? Just wait and see, Angie, Tsing Hui said as he strode towards a training ground. He had been known as a genius since he was young. So, if he were to appear even more monstrous and use his talent to come into contact with the family's hidden passage to the chaotic void, then sneak out, that would be the best choice. Do you think I'll add Diamond, Master, and King? That's impossible. Chapter 940. As an ancient aristocratic family that had a legacy of over 400,000 years and had a powerhouse who could create a world with a single thought, the scale of the Andersons was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Even if there was no supernatural power in this world, and cultivators who were equivalent to astral rank could not create a world with a single thought and had an endless lifespan, the tens of thousands of years of lifespan still allowed the family to prosper and develop. Today, the entire family had over 400 branches, and each branch had tens of thousands of family members. Some of the larger branches even had up to 100,000 members. For such a large family, there were only 28 seats in the Elder Council, which showed how much power the elders had. To become an elder, one must have the qualifications to go to the ancestral land to cultivate. Otherwise, even if one had cultivated to platinum rank or even astral rank, one would not be accepted into the Elder Council. At most, one would only be able to become a great deacon. Looks like the so-called cultivation in the ancestral land, on one hand, is to determine if there are spies who have infiltrated the family. On the other hand, it's to carry out a series of brainwashing education to prevent the family's secrets from being exposed. Tsing Hui's mind was digesting in Yi's memories, and his figure had already appeared in the Andersons' big hall. At this moment, the hall was already filled with people. The entire hall was divided into two levels. At the top level, the family's upper echelons were drinking and chatting on a spacious grandstand while drinking and enjoying themselves. At the bottom level, there was a huge arena and a grandstand area that could accommodate 300,000 people. Whether it was the grandstand or the arena, they were all built with extremely sturdy materials, filled with a condensed and sturdy beauty. In this world, supernatural power had been suppressed even more in the past 200 years. A punch from a gold-tier powerhouse who was equivalent to a divine true body could only destroy an area of 10 kilometers. If their destructive power were to be divided equally in this arena, the most they could do was to create a few holes that were a few meters or a dozen meters wide. That was all. When Tsing Hui arrived at the arena, there were two people fighting fiercely in the arena. Both of them were silver level. One of them was a beginner silver level, while the other was an intermediate silver level. The lifespan of the cultivators in this world is not like that of the Lord of Chaos's cultivation system. Once you reach the golden core stage, once you reach the divine true body stage, once you reach the world creation stage, and once you reach the transcendent stage, your lifespan will reach 300 to 400 years. If you become an iron human, you can live up to 600 years old. Then, you will reach the bronze life stage, silver life stage, gold life stage, and platinum life stage. Every increase in cultivation level is a sublimation of life, which can increase your lifespan to 800 years old, 1,000 years old, 2,000 years old, and 3,000 years old. This was also the reason why the family referred to those under 100 years old as the juvenile group, those between 100 and 300 years old as the youth group, and those above 300 years old as the adult group. Life sublimation, starlight, moonlight, sun, and finally, legendary life. Ching Su carefully went over the cultivation system of this world in his mind. It seemed like it felt like he was evolving toward a chaos life form. However, he had yet to come into contact with the cultivation method above starlight, so he didn't know if this conjecture was true or not. If it was true, then it was necessary to collect the cultivation system of this world. He had been able to evolve into a chaos life formed purely by chance, relying on the fortune jade. Compared to the chaos life form that cultivated step by step, he was equivalent to someone who had started out halfway, and his foundation was completely incomparable. If he could supplement this foundation, his process of evolving into a chaos life form after cultivating the third level of the Tao disc would be much smoother. An E over here. An E is here. Brother An E, are you going to go on stage this time and show off your talents to the esteemed elders? While Tsing Hui was pondering, Angie had already brought him to the spectator's stand where the people of her lineage were. For a moment, a dozen youths gathered around at the same time, and even some of the elders of their lineage had their eyes on Tsing Hui. Ani, how about it? Do you want to go up and give it a try? Among the elders, a middle-aged man with an advanced gold cultivation said with a hint of encouragement. Singhui quickly recognized this person through Enyi's memories. It was the patriarch of his lineage, Enkano. Enkano's lineage was ranked around 95th or 96th among the 400 branches of the En family, which was considered to be above average. The ones with the greatest authority in the family were the patriarch, Enkano, who was an intermediate deacon, and his current body's father, and Saw. However, it was all thanks to Ching Su that Suo could become an intermediate attendant of the clan. The reason why his lineage was able to rise from the top 100 to the top 100 was also because of his outstanding performance since young. This was also the reason why everyone in his lineage was filled with anticipation for him. Singhui met everyone's gaze with a smile. Of course I'm going to give it a try. I gained a lot from my training outside 4 years ago. Patriarch, and he said that he condensed a gold body and broke through to the gold rank. Anya, who was like a blabbermouth at the side, couldn't wait to speak. Gold rank? Enkano was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. Ani, is what Angie said true? You really condensed a gold body and stepped into the gold life realm? Oh my god, this is unbelievable. And he actually broke through to the gold rank. A gold rank at the age of 109. And he is definitely the most outstanding genius in the family in the past 100 years. He's comparable to the third elder's granddaughter, and Weiwei. And Weiwei broke through to the gold rank when she was 108 years old. Now, she's only 210 years old, and she's already at the pinnacle of the platinum rank. She just needs an opportunity to ignite the starlight and step into the starlight realm to become the youngest elder in the family in the past 1,000 years. And Yi's branch suddenly burst into uncontrollable exclamations, and the sound quickly spread out. What? And Yi condensed a gold body and broke through to the gold rank? That fellow Enkano is really lucky. Such a genius was actually born from his lineage. And he has been known as a genius since he was young. He was only at the intermediate silver rank in the last competition, right? I didn't expect him to break through so quickly. He's already surpassed his peers. All sorts of discussions were heard, and Kano intentionally added fuel to the fire. Soon, it spread to the second floor of the conference hall. The senior deacons, grand deacons, and elders in the conference hall heard about it. What's going on over there? After a while, a female elder who looked to be in her 30s and was full of grace and elegance finally asked about this matter. Elder Angela, it's a little genius from Enkano's lineage. He's outstanding. I heard that he condensed a gold body and became a gold life realm at the age of 109. A senior deacon who belonged to the female elder's lineage replied with a smile beside her. Condensed a gold body at the age of 109? Elder Angela smiled and looked at a middle-aged man beside her. Elder Angus, this little genius talent is comparable to your granddaughter's. The middle-aged man was chatting with the current patriarch, and Nan. He pondered for a moment and nodded after hearing Elder Angela's words. Indeed, he's very talented. The most outstanding ones in this year's competition are Only, Anya, and Anthony. I originally planned to take 1 or 2 of them away. Since this little guy called an E is so outstanding, I'll let him go. If he really condenses a gold body, it means that he has a lot of potential in his family. When the time comes, I'll bring him to the ancestral land to train him. That's right. Elder, I'll let him go and show his cultivation base. Please take a look, Elder. As Nan spoke, he summoned a guard and passed down the order. Soon, the guard passed the order to Patriarch Enkano, who told Sing Hui with a surprised expression, and that's great. The 3rd elder and the 10th elder have heard about your talent. They hope that you'll participate in the next round. When the time comes, you must perform well. As long as the 2 elders are satisfied with your performance, there's a high chance that you'll be brought to the ancestral land by the 2 elders. Sing Hui nodded. His goal was to go to the ancestral land and find out the truth about this mysterious family. Just the gold body alone isn't amazing enough. I can't guarantee that I'll win. Moreover, I need to build a foundation for my performance. Then, it's best that I condense a perfect gold body. Hui quickly came up with a plan. This cultivation system required one to temper one's body at the iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and beyond. According to the degree of tempering, the body was usually divided into 3 ranks: ordinary, excellent, and perfect. The difference between these 3 ranks was very small. If the cultivator didn't use his full strength, no one would know the rank of the body, and it wouldn't affect the subsequent breakthroughs. Even if the cultivator broke through with an ordinary body, they could still step into the astral rank. However, this was related to the cultivator's future development potential. As a peak expert, Qing Su understood, after some careful analysis from these classifications, an ordinary body would not only be able to reach the starlight rank, but reaching the moonlight rank would also be a piece of cake. However, reaching the glorious sun rank would be extremely difficult, while an excellent body would be stuck at the bottleneck of legendary life forms. Although it was not impossible to break through in their entire lives, they would have to put in 10 times or even several dozen times more effort than their predecessors for even a sliver of hope. Only by tempering the body with a perfect gold body would one be able to smoothly reach the legendary rank. And he did refine an excellent body at the iron rank, but the bronze and silver ranks are just ordinary bodies. Hui thought to himself as the power of the laws of the grand path of unity poured down from the illusory, immortal Tao civilization and began to cleanse and batter his body. The grand path of unity was his fundamental great path, equivalent to the foundation of his chaos life form. Compared to the so-called gold, platinum, and even legendary life forms, the chaos life form was undoubtedly much stronger. Under the cleansing of the chaos life form's fundamental foundation, the flaws he'd left behind in the iron, bronze, and silver ranks were silently fixed. Soon, the silver body that had been fixed to its perfect form transformed once more. A perfect gold body was formed in a matter of breaths without alerting anyone. At this moment, the duel on the stage was announced to be over, and the next round was about to begin. Under the personal guidance of the clan leader's personal guard, Hui stepped forward and walked towards the center of the arena. Chapter 941. Hui was led to the stage by the guard. Before the platinum-level guard could step down, a figure had already stepped onto the stage impatiently. It was the famous gold ranker of the younger generation, Anthony. Anthony looked at Hui in front of him and roared, "What do you have to be chosen by the elders in advance? Now, let me break your strong appearance and let the elders see who is the most outstanding existence in the youth group." Hui looked at the angry Anthony in front of him and knew that what he did was against the interests of others. However, he was too lazy to explain too much to a divine true body level practitioner. He made a do whatever you want gesture and stood there quietly, waiting for him to attack. "You're courting death." It was a simple action, but Anthony was completely enraged. He roared, and his body suddenly grew from less than 2 meters to 4 meters. His body was emitting a golden light. This was a secret technique that only gold rankers could master, the golden battle form. After revealing his golden battle form, Anthony threw a punch with the advantage of being in a higher position. It carried the force of Mount Tai as it smashed towards Hui. The friction between the pure force and the air created a deafening roar. It was like a thunderbolt exploding from the ground. It blew up the air in front of him, and at the same time, it seemed like the weak creature in front of him was blown up as well. It seemed like Hui faced the attack of the giant in front of him. He leaned his left foot forward and moved his right foot back. He stood sideways and squatted slightly. Then, his right hand moved slightly backward, clenched into a fist, and bent at the moment when the gigantic monster's terrifying attack was about to descend. He punched out with a loud bang. The dust where Hui was standing was rolled up by the force of his punch, forming a sharp tornado. It instantly collided with the thunderbolt attack of Anthony's golden battle form. Boom! The ground was struck by a thunderbolt. Crack! The sound of countless stone slabs shattering resounded throughout the battlefield. The shock wave formed by the collision of the two fists swept across the ground, causing the arena to shatter into pieces. Countless stone fragments floated in the air due to this terrifying shock wave. In the next second, they were swept away by a terrifying storm and spread out wildly, covering an area of 1,000 meters around the arena. If it wasn't for the defensive force field in the arena, this collapsing force would have swept up the stone fragments and rushed in all directions, smashing all life forms below the iron body level into pieces. That's it. Xinghui did not seem to notice that his legs had sunk into the ground. He continued to provoke Anthony with his eyes. Anthony looked at Xinghui. He did not expect that this kid, who had not even revealed his golden battle body, would be able to block his punch. However, in the next moment, he roared and attacked again. Go to hell. Rumble. The shockwaves and shockwaves caused by the collision of the two fist forces instantly exploded in the arena. That little guy called and he actually didn't use his golden battle body? Did he not learn the secret technique to activate his golden battle body? Without using his golden battle body, he actually blocked Anthony's attack. On the second floor, Elder Angela, who called out Xinghui, looked at the arena curiously. This kid has a strong foundation. His foundation is very solid. Third Elder Angus said with a smile. This doesn't seem to be as simple as having a solid foundation. Angela looked at the two people who were constantly colliding with each other. Her expression gradually became serious. As Elder Angela's attitude changed, Angus also became slightly more serious. His eyes kept sizing up Xinghui as if he was paying attention to every curve of his body, every muscle, and every way he exerted force. Under this constant sizing up, a somewhat shocking guess appeared in the minds of the two elders. Could it be? It's very possible. On the side, Chayan, who was listening to the two elders, thought of something. Could it be that you're talking about? Perfect body. Watch. We'll know when we see. Angus said in a deep voice. As time passed, the battle in the arena continued, and the commotion caused by the two people's battle became louder and louder. The spectators gradually became excited. I didn't expect an E to be so strong. Anthony is the most promising person to win the championship in the youth group. An E, who has just stepped into the gold rank, can actually fight Anthony to a draw. It's simply incredible. An E, that genius from the youth division, he just got promoted to the youth division, and he can fight Anthony to such an extent. Anthony even activated his golden battle body, and he still can't do anything to him. You have to win. You have to win. The winner is not guilty. An E, come on, defeat him. Outside the arena, there were continuous cheers. There were opponents of an E in the youth division, powerhouses who were expected to compete for the top 10 in the youth division, and most of them were members of an Yi's family. In the end, Xinghui didn't disappoint them. The head-on clash lasted for quite a few minutes, and in the end, Anthony was the first to give out. Maintaining the golden battle constitution drained his strength extremely severely. Coupled with the fact that he had unleashed his full strength, every single punch basically contained his full strength, so the drain on his physical strength increased exponentially. As his physical strength ran out, the golden battle constitution vanished. Qing Su only needed a single punch to knock him out, forcing him to the ground. Thank you for your cooperation. Xinghui moved his body slightly and pulled out half of his body that was embedded in the ground. You won. Anthony gasped violently and looked at Xinghui with disbelief in his eyes. Without the golden battle body, how could you withstand my attacks for so long? You'll know when you find out. Qing Su smiled faintly. Even though he had not expended much effort to deal with Anthony, in order to make himself appear more normal, he also acted like he was panting for air, like he was at the end of his rope. That's great. You won. And you won. You actually defeated Anthony. Now, no one will doubt you when you go to the ancestral land. When the battle ended, Encano and the others rushed over with excited expressions. Xinghui nodded slightly. Soon, the Patriarch's guard came to Xinghui again and said with a smile, "An The patriarch and the elders want you to go over. Follow me. Go and eat. You must be respectful in front of the elders. Enkano said. Singhui smiled. He wanted to sneak into the family's ancestral land and find out the family secret. Naturally, he wouldn't throw a tantrum over such a small matter. He followed the guard to the second floor. As soon as they reached the second floor, Elder Angela was the first to walk over. Greetings, Elder Angela. Not bad, young man. It seems like Enkano has taught a genius recently. Angela said with a smile. Haha, young man, let me take a look. Enkano laughed and patted Sing Hui's shoulder. As soon as he patted Sing Hui's shoulder, an invisible energy immediately penetrated Sing Hui's body. Sing Hui knew Enkano was probing his foundation, so he pretended not to notice and bowed again. After confirming that Sing Hui had indeed cultivated the perfect body, Enkano's smile widened. Good, young man. Your foundation is very solid. Go and tell your family that you'll follow us back to the ancestral land in half a month. In other words, Enkano had promised Lin Huang a spot to cultivate in the ancestral land. Under the envious gazes of many senior deacons and senior deacons, Sing Hui bowed again. Thank you, third elder. You deserve it. As Angus spoke, he got someone to take Ching Su away first. Perfect body? Anan and Angela came up to him and asked. It is indeed the perfect body, but I don't know if he can maintain it when he reaches the platinum rank. If he can, there is a small chance that our family will give birth to a legendary being in the future. Enkano nodded and said to Anan, investigate his background. If there are no problems, we'll bring him back to the ancestral land and train him. Okay, leave it to me. Anan nodded. Their conversation could be described as secretive, but Ching Su, who had already descended to the second floor, heard it extremely clearly. Ching Su did not worry about that at all. The mysteries of the laws of fortune ranked at the very top among the 3,000 ways. Let alone Elder Angus. Even the legendary life forms equivalent to great ability, users hidden in the ancestral grounds would not be able to find anything wrong with his reincarnation. His origins were definitely clean. Half a month passed by quickly. Under the expectant and envious gazes of Enkano and the others, Ching Su, Angus, Angela, and the other elders boarded a warship-like building and headed towards the clan's ancestral grounds. Even though extraordinary powers were restricted, the family's territory was still hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide. The ancestral land was in a mountain range with a diameter of 3,000 kilometers, called the Mountain of Peace. There were many restrictions and traps around a mountain range, and many elite members of the family were guarding it. Anyone who barged in would not be able to escape the fate of death. Even moonlight rankers were no exception. However, Sing Hui knew that with the family's hidden strength, not to mention moonlight rankers, even legendary beings would die if they barged into the ancestral land. The ship traveled forward, passing through countless checkpoints, and finally entered the Mountain of Peace where the ancestral land was located. As soon as they entered the mountain range, Sing Hui clearly felt that the space around them had become abnormal, vaguely resembling a subsidiary world. Originally, this subsidiary world should have been hidden very well and should not have been detected by Sing Hui. However, it seemed that the universe's consciousness had sealed off the entire chaotic universe, causing this abnormality to appear in this subsidiary world, allowing Sing Hui to detect it immediately. This family is not ordinary, Sing Hui thought to himself. The ship they were on had already stopped at a platform. On the platform, there were already 2 elders waiting there. These 2 elders looked like they were only at the astral rank, which was the standard of creating a world with a thought. However, Sing Hui could see through the enormous energy hidden deep within them at first glance. It was a terrifying energy that was not inferior to legendary beings. Chapter 942. For the next 10 years, you will be receiving guidance from the 2 elders of the ancestral land. Elder Angus, who led the group, led the 6 selected people to the 2 elders of the ancestral land. At the same time, he said respectfully, Elders, I'll have to trouble you with these 6 little fellows. Their identities have been fully verified, and they are absolutely trustworthy. After saying that, he secretly glanced in the direction of Tsing Hui. In addition, among these 6 little fellows, one has cultivated a perfect body. He cultivated a perfect body through his own efforts. One of the 2 elders glanced at Tsing Hui and nodded secretly. Okay, I understand. You may leave. Yes, then I'll take my leave first. After saying that, Angus left and handed the 6 people to the 2 elders of the ancestral land. Of the 6 people, only 4 were actually selected by the martial arts arena. The other 2 were obviously seeds with potential that were secretly cultivated. One of the 2 elders of the ancestral land stepped forward and looked at the 4 people indifferently. You can call me Chun Zhao. I'm mainly responsible for guiding your cultivation. The other one is Elder Hunyuan. He's responsible for teaching you how to survive better. Survive? The 6 people looked at each other. That's right, survival. No matter how talented you are, if you can't survive and die prematurely, only death awaits you. Dead geniuses aren't geniuses, they're just idiots. Not to mention, in my eyes, you guys aren't geniuses at all. Every 10 years, I've seen so many so-called geniuses like you guys, but how many of them can really stand out? Chen Zhao said and added, "Follow me." After saying that, he led the group of 6 straight to a valley in the mountain range. The entire valley was filled with all sorts of restrictions and formations. However, in this world, they took the form of mysterious runes. These runes imprisoned the valley and even the trees and rocks in the valley, making the trees and rocks extremely sturdy and miraculous. However, Tsing Hui couldn't see the specific use of these runes. He could only rely on his powerful senses to determine the changes in their quality. In the valley, there were dozens of small courtyards that were very far apart. They were scattered all over the valley with a diameter of nearly 100 kilometers. Some old people lived in these courtyards, but there were also many young people. Judging from the exclamations of Anya, who was also selected from time to time, it was not difficult to guess that these young people were the outstanding geniuses who had been selected to enter the ancestral land in the previous big competition held every 10 years. As soon as Elder Chen Zhao arrived, he immediately began to gather the other young people in the courtyard. Not long after, there were more than 40 young people gathered in front of Tsing Hui. Among these 40 young people, the weakest was at least gold rank, and more than half of them were at least platinum rank. This fully demonstrated the depth of the Yin family's heritage. Today is the day when the newcomers arrive. At the same time, it is also the day when the unqualified will be eliminated. If you want to stay in the ancestral land, you can only be the true pillar of the Yin clan in the future, the leader who can support the growth of the Yin clan. Many of you clearly do not have this qualification. As Elder Chun Zhao spoke, he began to call out the names. Not long after, 6 people were selected. The 6 people who were chosen had gloomy expressions on their faces. Shame and unwillingness could be seen on their faces. Your performance in the past 10 years has disappointed me. Now, you can pack your things and go back. The Yin family's precious resources won't be wasted on trash. Elder Chun Zhao's words were merciless. However, in the eyes of Anya and the others, this scene was rather unbelievable. Because among the 6 people who were eliminated, 4 of them were at the gold rank, and 2 of them were even at the platinum rank. If they were placed in the outside world, they would be able to dominate a region. But now, from the looks of it, they were kicked out like trash by Elder Chun Zhao. This naturally formed a strong impact on them. If a platinum rank who was less than 300 years old was like this, then what about them, the gold rank juniors? The ancestral land has a unique cultivation environment formed by the accumulation of all the Yin family's resources. In 10 years, as long as you put in enough effort and diligence, even if your talent is trash, you can still break through a small realm. If you can't break through, then you'll be kicked out like them in 10 years. Elder Chun Zhao announced the mechanism without hesitation. The rules of the ancestral land are like this. You must break through a small realm every 10 years when you're gold rank, and the time limit is extended to 30 years when you're platinum rank. Only then can you continue to stay in the ancestral land. If your performance doesn't satisfy us, then you don't have the qualifications to become a guardian of the ancestral land and enjoy the family's best resources, just like them. The 6 cultivators who were kicked out immediately looked ashamed. The remaining 30 or so young people all looked nervous. Survival of the fittest. The weak don't have the qualifications to enjoy rich resources. This is the first lesson I'm teaching you. Take them away. Elder Chun Zhao waved his hand as he spoke, and the elders came forward to take the 6 people who were eliminated away. You've all cultivated the gold body, but the gold body is only the beginning of the gold rank. Chun Zhao's voice echoed in the field, but Xing Hui didn't pay much attention to it. Most of his attention was focused on sizing up the ancestral land. Unfortunately, even if he was one of the most powerful people in the world, and his battle strength wasn't any weaker than the demon god's incarnation, his experience and knowledge were too little. Even if he knew that the ancestral land hid a great secret, he couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Looks like if I want to get in touch with the core secrets of the ancestral land, I'll have to first obtain a high enough position. Fortunately, I've always been a genius in the past 100 years. Since I've been nurtured by the ancestral land's resources, I won't attract too much attention no matter how much of a genius I am. Xing Hui calmed down as he thought about it. After Chun Zhao gave a lecture, he quickly brought the 6 people, including the 20 or so seniors who were still in the gold rank, into the cultivation course. The first place they were brought to was a huge smithy. This smithy had a large furnace with a diameter of 10 meters. Through smelting gold, precious herbs, and ferocious beast corpses, a large amount of golden liquid was extracted. The first step was to smear the golden liquid all over their bodies. During the smearing process, the golden liquid seeped into their bodies. While it brought them excruciating pain, it also strengthened their bodies and tempered their cells. With his powerful senses, Xing Hui could clearly see how precious this resource was to a gold rank cultivator. After understanding the amplification effect of the golden liquid on a gold rank powerhouse, Xing Hui made sure that his body showed enough improvement every time he completed his cultivation. Under such circumstances, he rose from the beginner gold rank to the intermediate gold rank in just 2 years of cultivation, which was the minimum requirement for the 10 years of cultivation. This result surprised Elder Chun Zhao a little, and the guidance he gave him after that was obviously more biased. The results that Xing Hui deliberately showed did not disappoint Elder Chun Zhao. In less than 3 years after breaking through to the intermediate gold rank, he advanced again and stepped into the advanced gold rank. In just 5 years, he had broken through 2 small ranks. Not only did it make other cultivators of the same rank envious, but it also alarmed more elders. In the next 5 years, Xing Hui continued to work hard. Under the surprised gazes of several elders, he broke through again and rushed to the peak gold rank, completing the 3-level leap in just 10 years. It seemed that the platinum rank was just around the corner. Xing Hui, who had shown such talent, finally gained the attention of the elders of the ancestral land. Following that, Elder Hunyuan personally gave him one-on-one special training that lasted for 10 years. In these 10 years, Xing Hui could clearly feel that Elder Hunyuan was not only guiding him in his cultivation, but also finding ways to establish his worldview. From their worldview, it was not difficult to see that they were hostile to the supreme, eternal shrine. Behind the eternal shrine was the burning blood overlord. Being hostile to the eternal shrine was almost equivalent to being hostile to the burning blood overlord. In this regard, while Xing Hui was secretly shocked, he naturally did his best to show his loyalty to the Andersons. As long as the Andersons' interests were violated, even if they were members of the Eternal Shrine's priest council, he would not hesitate to kill them. After 10 years of observation, she confirmed that Xing Hui's worldview was correct. In addition, he had broken through to the platinum rank 3 years ago. To prevent further observation from wasting his talent, Elder Hunyuan finally led Xing Hui into the valley. After passing through a layer of disguised spatial barriers that resembled an auxiliary world, they arrived at a huge underground space. This underground space was hundreds of kilometers wide, and there were many people living in it. However, most of them were elderly, and they behaved mysteriously. Under Elder Wuyan's lead, Tsing Hui quickly arrived at a place that resembled an academy. As Tsing Hui carefully sensed, the number of cultivators in the academy, with terrifying energy hidden in their bodies, broke through the double digits. In addition, there were about a dozen cultivators who looked rather young, but their cultivations were at the platinum, astral, and moonlight ranks. I've finally come into contact with the core. Tsing Hui secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He did not expect that he would still have to go through a 20-year-long assessment despite having such a clean background. And you're the little fellow who Wu Yin and Chan Zhao strongly recommended over the years. The one who they said had the best talent? Come, don't be afraid. Follow me. The academy's dean, Eclipse, was an elder who similarly contained terrifying energy. He smiled as he led Tsing Hui into the academy. Before you enter the academy, you must first pay your respects to our clan's progenitor. This progenitor isn't the progenitor who founded the clan in the mortal plane. Instead, he's an even more ancient and mighty existence. As Eclipse spoke, he led Tsing Hui deep into the academy, in front of a large statue that was about 30 meters tall. The instant he saw the statue and sensed the remnant aura on it, Tsing Hui held his breath. Heretic God? The statue was actually an heretic god. No, or rather, it was a chaos life form. Chapter 943. A chaos life form? To worship another chaos life form in a chaos life form's chaos universe? Or could it be that the in-family lineage is actually a descendant of a chaos life form? When Tsing Hui came to the in-family, he had always felt that the in-family was not simple. But he never expected that the in-family, which he only believed to have some huge secrets, was actually that complicated. A chaos life form? Could it be? Was this a chaos life form that had infiltrated another chaos life form's body in a bid to trigger a war between chaos life forms? But a war between chaos life forms shouldn't be so trivial, right? With the size of chaos life forms, once they attacked, it should be an apocalyptic battle. I believe you can tell from the moment you came here that our family isn't as simple as you make it out to be. Eclipse's turbid gaze landed on Tsing Hui as it contained a terrifying glint. Do you remember the oath you swore when Smokeless brought you here? I remember. I will forever be the sharp sword of the family clan, slashing apart all enemies that obstruct our family clan's rise to prominence. Even the Eternal Temple's priest core is no exception. Tsing Hui wore a solemn expression as his expression was filled with resolve. He knew that when he said those words, the elder named Eclipse had already used a chaos life form figurine that resembled a creation divine artifact to probe his heart. He was trying to determine the truth of his words. Unfortunately, on the one hand, Tsing Hui was speaking the truth. He wasn't afraid of the Eternal Temple's priest core. On the other hand, as a chaos life form, how could a statue that only contained a portion of the chaos life forms might probe the thoughts of another chaos life form? Seeing that the statue didn't show any abnormalities, Eclipse's eyes were filled with a satisfied smile. Then, he slowly said, I believe you are now very curious as to who this mighty patriarch in front of you is, right? Tsing Hui nodded heavily. At the same time, he looked at the statue in front of him and imagined the growth process of a chaos life form. He said, Elder, I sense an extremely familiar aura from this statue. In fact, this familiar aura makes a force in my body stir. Is this our true patriarch? You can actually sense the primogenitor's aura. When Eclipse heard Tsing Hui's words, he immediately widened his eyes. Could it be that the bloodline in your body is showing signs of atavism? Yes, that was definitely the case. Otherwise, I can't explain how you, who came from a branch family, could break through to such a level in such a short time. With that said, Eclipse sliced open his right hand and dripped a drop of blood essence to offer it to the statue in front of him. He said with excitement, "Great ancestor, if this person in front of me is really of your bloodline, please bless him." When Tsing Hui heard this, his expression changed slightly. He seemed to have gone a little overboard. Just as he was trying to come up with a solution, the statue did not respond. The excitement in Eclipse's eyes gradually dimmed. The great primogenitor lost his response to us 3 million years ago. According to the legends passed down from the other branches, the great primogenitor was harmed by this evil god. Even his world was devoured. This chaos being was harmed by the burning blood lord? Even the universe was devoured? If that's the case, this chaos being is probably dead. Tsing Hui's heart stirred. If the chaos being in front of him was really dead, he had a much greater chance of success. With this thought in mind, the virtual immortal Tao world's powers rapidly projected onto the statue. Instantly, the statue emitted a profound, obscure, vast, majestic, and boundless aura. It left Dean Eclipse widening his eyes. This is, although it's very weak, and there are some slight differences, but this is definitely an aura that only the primogenitor can possess. The primogenitor has manifested his spirit. Hum. The statue's mysticism lasted for an instant. At the next moment, the mysticism transformed into a stream of light that shot into Tsing Hui's body. Upon obtaining the stream of light, Tsing Hui thought of the various characteristics of the chaos being's cultivation system. He immediately faked a tragic cry as though he was in extreme pain. And as he screamed, his platinum stage aura began to rise crazily. Platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage, platinum stage. His life form's evolution improved by leaps and bounds. He went from the platinum stage to the platinum stage to the platinum stage. This was also the highest level Tsing Hui could reach without anyone noticing anything amiss with his present strength. If he wanted to reach the glorious sun, or even the legendary stage, he was lacking in strength. On the other hand, it was inevitable that Dean Eclipse would notice something amiss. Heavens, the primogenitor's blessing. Bloodline awakening. This is the sign of the primogenitor's blessing of bloodline awakening. When Elder Eclipse saw the changes in Tsing Hui's aura, he exclaimed in pleasant surprise. At the same time, the mystical aura that appeared on the statue also attracted the powerful senses of the dozen or so legendary powerhouses in this obscure place. Along with the dispersal of a huge aura, the figures of the dozen or so legendary powerhouses appeared in the hall where the statue was located at the same time. Eclipse, what's going on? Oh, this is the primogenitors. Just now, we sensed a vast and majestic aura that caused one's life essence to tremble. However, that aura was too obscure, and it vanished without a trace in a flash. We didn't have the time to investigate it carefully at all. What exactly happened? Legendary experts with terrifying auras appeared one after another. Every one of them was in existence in no way weaker than a mighty divine ability user. Although the number of these people was nothing compared to the scene Tsing Hui had in the Eternal Temple, he had yet to recover to his peak. If he were to make enemies with more than 10 legendary experts, he would still be in danger. Thankfully, Eclipse seemed to sense the change in Tsing Hui's breathing. He thought that he was frightened by the presence of so many legendary experts, and immediately waved his hand. "You old fogies, don't scare our little E. And E? This little guy. Oh, his bloodline seems very young. He's already at the moonshine stage? What's going on, Eclipse?" As the legendary experts conversed, they quickly converged their auras. As for Tsing Hui, he also recovered some of his complexion. By the side, Eclipse immediately consoled him. "Ani, don't be nervous. These are our family's elders who guard the ancestral grounds. They usually cultivate in seclusion deep in the ancestral grounds. Unless we're facing a fatal danger, they won't easily walk out of the ancestral grounds. You don't have to worry either. You just received the primogenitor's blessing and awakened the primogenitor's bloodline. In the future, The family will definitely nurture you with all its might. The primogenitor's blessing? Bloodline awakening? Eclipse, are you saying that this little guy, an old man among the dozen or so people, widened his eyes and looked at Ching Su in some disbelief. The others basically had the same reaction as him. Eclipse nodded. The anomaly that happened just now was an E receiving the primogenitor's blessing. As a result, he awakened his bloodline. Due to his bloodline awakening, an E went from the low platinum stage to the low moonshine stage. He crossed 8 minor realms and 2 major realms. Is it really a bloodline awakening? The elder immediately appeared beside Tsing Hui and pulled him up. At the same time, a surge of energy surged into Tsing Hui's body. Tsing Hui's heart stirred as he released a wisp of his energy fluctuations as a chaos life form. To ensure his safety, he only allowed the elder to sense the energy fluctuations for a moment before quickly concealing them. But even so, the elder could not help but reveal a look of delight when he sensed the chaos life form aura in Tsing Hui's body. It's indeed a bloodline awakening. Although it's extremely weak, he's the only descendant who has truly awakened his bloodline in the past 3 million years. Isn't it said that the great primogenitor has already perished? Even the chaos verse we live in has been devoured and refined by this detestable chaos life form. It forced our lineage to scatter across the mortal plane and hide ourselves deep in hopes of the day when we can recreate the primogenitor's glory. How can he still bless his descendants and awaken their bloodline? One of the elders was doubtful. However, his doubts were quickly refuted by another elder. The great primogenitor's power is far beyond our imagination. Although we haven't received a reply from the primogenitor in the past 3 million years, that doesn't mean he's truly dead. After all, 3 million years is nothing to an existence like the great primogenitor. It might be equivalent to a period of seclusion for him to recuperate. As for your claim that the primogenitor's universe has been devoured by the chaos life form, that might not be the case. Our subsidiary worlds still exist to this day. So doesn't that prove that the chaos life form has only absorbed the primogenitor's world into his body and not fully assimilated it? Once the primogenitor awakens, he'll naturally be able to regain control of that world and charge out of the chaos life form's chaos verse. That's right. The chaos life form has indeed devoured the primogenitor's world, but he had already left his own chaos verse 1 million years ago. It said that he had invaded other chaos verses, and a mere 2 million years isn't enough for the primogenitor's world to be completely melted. Perhaps the primogenitor took advantage of that time to be reborn from the ashes and return from death. That's most likely the case. The youth before us must be the first seed chosen by the primogenitor upon his return. At the same time, the primogenitor is giving us a signal before he awakens, and might even contact us through him one day in the future. Exactly. The legends who had been waiting for the primogenitor's reply for a long time were all agitated, placing all their gazes and hopes on Tsing Hui. After all, there was no mistaking the vast presence they had sensed and the various reactions of the primogenitor's statue. A smile appeared on Ching Su's face as he watched the legendary elders talk to themselves excitedly. It was not a waste to infiltrate the family for so long. Now, it was finally time for him to reap the rewards, and, from the current situation, the descendants of a fallen chaos life form. The final reward might be more bountiful than he imagined. Chapter 944. An E. In another hall that was filled with a sacred and solemn aura, Eclipse, who had led Tsing Hui to pay respects to the ancestor, and 2 other elders who similarly contained massive auras were looking at him with solemn expressions. From this day forth, you will be taught by us personally. We will do our best to show you the glory of the ancestor, said Elder Eclipse. Elder Eclipse spoke. His words made Tsing Hui's expression turn solemn, as though he was listening attentively. This reaction naturally left Elder Eclipse and the other 2 elders rather satisfied. They nodded and organized their words before saying, Our lineage originates from an ancient system that has been passed down for more than 1 billion years. It originates from the mighty Lord of Scarlet Hell. The greatness of the Lord of Scarlet Hell can be traced back to an extremely long period of time. A long, long time ago, our ancestor of Scarlet Hell was born in an extremely powerful world. Furthermore, he thrived in that world, going through iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, astral, moonlight, sun, legend, and finally transforming into a mighty life form, a supreme existence known as a chaos life form. It's indeed a chaos life form. Although Tsing-Hui had a guess, it was only now that it was confirmed. Chaotic life forms are one of the greatest life forms in the endless chaotic void. They are even greater than the creation life forms. Usually, only 1 out of 10 creation life forms is born as a chaotic life form. Chaotic life forms are born half a level higher than creation life forms. This shows how extraordinary our primogenitor is. Chaos life forms are born half a level higher than creation life forms. Tsing-Hui's heart stirred when he heard this. The Lord of Chaos was a chaos life form, while the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time were both creation life forms. It was no wonder that the Lord of Gods and Lord of Time were only able to resist the Lord of Chaos invasion after secretly joining forces, even though these 3 supreme existences were at the same level of cultivation. After the mighty Crimson, Hell became a chaos life form. He broke away from the world that gave birth to him and led our bloodline to wander the vast primordial chaos. He allowed our bloodline to rapidly multiply and develop our own chaos verse. In just 1 billion years, the chaos verse that Crimson Hell created has become incomparably prosperous, with countless citizens. As for our bloodline, due to the legacy of our patriarch, we are one of the most powerful organizations in the universe. We reside high above the realm beyond heaven and enjoy endless glory. As Elder Eclipse spoke, his eyes were filled with longing for the glory days of his time. Unfortunately, on a certain day, 3 million years ago, this glory ended. Although chaos life forms are massive entities in the endless chaos, they are not invincible. There are other creation and chaos life forms roaming the depths of the chaos. And on a certain day, 3 million years ago, the great Crimson Hell Patriarch was attacked by another chaos life form, Master of Burning Blood. Tsing-Hui knew who the chaos life form that attacked the Infamily's Patriarch was. It's none other than the creator of this chaos verse, Master of Burning Blood. He relied on his indestructible characteristics to launch a despicable sneak attack on the mighty Patriarch, causing the mighty Patriarch to be heavily injured before he could lock onto his true location. By the time the Patriarch began his counterattack, his body was already greatly affected. He was unable to outlast Master of Burning Blood, who is also a chaos life form. In the end, he was defeated by the despicable Master of Burning Blood. Even our entire universe was devoured by him. He seemed to want to use the collision of the 2 chaos verses to capture the truth of indestructible and gain insight into the profundities of space-time. When Elder Eclipse said that, he sneered. Clearly, he failed. It's impossible for him to become greater by relying on strength obtained through forceful plundering. Tsing-Hui knew that Elder Eclipse was being sarcastic. After devouring Crimson Hell's universe, Master of Burning Blood had clearly grown stronger. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to become the strongest evil god outside of the immortal Tao civilization, second only to the Lords of Chaos, Lords of Time, and Lord of Gods. You have the mighty Patriarch's bloodline in you. Furthermore, your bloodline has already awakened. Your cultivation will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. However, if you are unable to find the correct cultivation direction, it might still be a waste of your talent. As Elder Eclipse spoke, he glanced at the other 2 elders. After the other 2 elders nodded heavily, they took out a jade booklet that contained a mystical aura. This is a cultivation technique our Lord Patriarch bestowed upon us. This cultivation technique not only points out the various stages of a chaos life form's metamorphosis, but but it also points out the direction of a chaos life form's metamorphosis. It even mentions and infers Master of Burning Blood's indestructible characteristics. We wish to cultivate in this cultivation technique, but due to our failure to awaken the Patriarch's bloodline, we have been unable to make any progress. Now, we will hand it over to you. A cultivation technique at the level of Master of Burning Blood. Sing Hui's eyes lit up slightly. According to the cultivation system of the Lord of Chaos lineage, Master of Burning Blood was an existence equivalent to the fifth firmament chaos realm. He was only second to the Lord of Chaos, Lord of Gods, and Lord of Time. Such a cultivation technique would be extremely useful in mending the fourth and fifth firmament of his great Tao disc. Sing Hui eagerly received it and studied it patiently. Although we are unable to cultivate in this cultivation technique, we have studied it extremely deeply. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask us directly. Furthermore, in the following period of time, the three of us will constantly guard you. As your Tao protectors, we will assist and supervise your cultivation, said Elder Eclipse. Elder Eclipse said, with the careful guidance of three great divine powers, it fully demonstrated the importance the family placed on him. Sing Hui nodded and expressed his sincere gratitude. Then, he quickly immersed his mind into the cultivation technique that the Lord of Scarlet Hell had passed down to his descendants. Oh, the cultivation of the first to third firmament chaos life forms is similar to the cultivation technique Master of Burning Blood gave me back then. It's about opening up an origins, constructing a virtual world, and then erupting from the origins. The key is the fourth firmament, the key to transforming into a chaos life form. Sing Hui's gaze landed on it. For a chaos life form cultivator to transform into a chaos life form, the difficulty was much higher than for a creation life form. Becoming a chaos life form was difficult, and with the rise of the creation life form lineage, the number of chaos life forms was constantly decreasing. According to the Lord of Scarlet Hell, in the endless chaos void, there were fewer and fewer newborn chaos life forms. As for the living chaos life forms, most of them were extremely powerful individuals. Instead, it was the creation life forms that had rapidly risen in recent times, replacing the chaos life form system. Today, the chaos life form lineage was on the brink of extinction. According to what's written here, becoming a creation life form is much easier than becoming a chaos life form. For a chaos life form to complete the transformation, the foundation needed is too strong. Back then, the Lord of Scarlet Hell was able to successfully transform into a chaos life form because he was suspected to have been enlightened by the ultimate eternal life form. Upon seeing this, Sing Hui was slightly taken aback. Eternal. He had actually seen the word eternal again in the cultivation technique the Lord of Scarlet Hell had given him. It represented the ultimate eternity of everything. The Lord of Scarlet Hell was fortunate enough to be enlightened by the eternal life form. No wonder. This is also the reason why the Lord of Scarlet Hell was able to break through. Wait a minute. According to what I know, chaos life forms should be able to infinitely split their bodies to increase their size. In other words, the Lord of Burning Blood had no need to devour the Lord of Scarlet Hell's chaotic universe. This wouldn't bring him any substantial benefits, but he still did it. Could it be because he sensed that the Lord of Scarlet Hell had been enlightened by the eternal life form? This discovery made Sing Hui's breathing stop for a moment. However, he clearly didn't have the authority to command the ANS at the moment. Only when he grew up, recovered, and became a peak powerhouse who could suppress legends would he be able to take over all the secrets of the ANS, including this information related to the eternal life form. The Lord of Burning Blood should have sensed the abnormality of the Lord of Scarlet Hell, but he didn't know that the Lord of Scarlet Hell was once related to eternal life form. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to the immortal Tao civilization before digesting the Lord of Scarlet Hell and snatched the opportunity of eternal life form from there. This gives me an opportunity to take advantage of. Sing Hui was slightly agitated, but he quickly calmed down. His gaze then fell on the fourth level of the Chaos Realm and the fifth level of the Chaos Realm cultivation technique he derived. Time flew by as he comprehended. 100 years passed in a flash, and Tsing Hui didn't disappoint as he raised his cultivation from the Radiant Moon rank to the Glorious Sun rank. At this rate, he had hopes of reaching the legendary rank in 1,000 years at most. However, Tsing Hui, who had gained the complete trust of Elder Eclipse and the others, clearly didn't plan on wasting another 1,000 years to raise his cultivation to the legendary rank. 10 years after he broke through to the Glorious Sun rank 1 and stabilized his Glorious Sun rank 1, he summoned more than 10 elders of the ancestral land, including Elder Eclipse. He said bluntly, "Elders, I feel that my bloodline powers have been shackled by this universe. If I were to forcefully cultivate any further, the moment I break through, I will probably be detected by the ruler of this universe. Therefore, I wish to head to the Chaos Void. I've inherited the bloodline of the great primogenitor, so I can live freely in the Chaos Void. If I can really go there, I'm confident that I can cultivate to the critical point of a chaos life form within 10,000 years. 10,000 years to cultivate to the critical point of a chaos life form." One of the elders frowned. Cultivators with the bloodline of a chaos life form can only cultivate better in the Chaos Void? I seem to have seen this information in some ancient records. Tsing Hui nodded. This is the shackle of this universe. And with our ability, we don't have the ability to break through this universe's shackle. Therefore, going to the Chaos Void is the only way. Therefore, I earnestly request that all of you open a passage to the Chaos Void and lend me a hand so that I can take this important step. Chapter 945. Open the passage to the Chaos Void. The elders seemed rather hesitant. One of them, who was clearly unwilling to open the passage, probed, "Will we really be discovered by the Searing Blood Overlord if we continue cultivating?" The Searing Blood Overlord hasn't made any major movements in recent years. It's said that he's gone to attack another Chaos verse. Won't the chances of being discovered be lower if we do that? We can't take this gamble. And E is the descendant of our bloodline who has the greatest hope of restoring the glory of our founding ancestor and leading our bloodline back to glory. That's why we can't take this gamble. I suggest that we open the passage and send an E to the Chaos verse. The will of the Blazing Blood Overlord has sealed off the Chaos verse to an extremely powerful extent. If we really open the passage, our bloodline will definitely be exposed. When that happens, the will of the Chaos verse will definitely sense our presence and attract the pursuit of the entire Eternal Shrine. All sorts of discussions rang out in the crowd. There were those who were worried, those who wanted to play it safe, and those who wanted to take the risk. The scene was a little chaotic. "Elders, please listen to me," Tsing Hui immediately said. "Everyone, if we don't give it a try, I fear that our bloodline will always struggle at death's door under the attacks of the Searing Blood Overlord. Once he returns from his campaign in the Chaos Verse and refines the power left behind by our founding ancestor, we will no longer have any hope. The legacy of our founding ancestor will also be worn away by the passage of time and return to oblivion. This is our only hope," he added with certainty. "Moreover, I can assure you that once I reach the critical point of being a chaos life form, my strength will surpass the legendary realm. Unless the Searing Blood Overlord returns from his campaign in the Chaos Verse, no power will be able to stop our attacks. Even the Eternal Shrine, which represents the will of the Searing Blood Overlord, will be no exception. This universe that belongs to the Searing Blood Overlord will be completely occupied by us. Above the legendary realm, unless the Searing Blood Overlord returns from his campaign, no power will be able to defeat us. When the time comes, can we think of a way to separate our founding ancestors' universe from the Searing Blood Overlord's Chaos Verse and break away from his rule?" When the elders heard Tsing Hui's words, they gradually calmed down. After a while, Elder Eclipse, who had the best relationship with Tsing Hui, asked. And can you really possess combat strength that surpasses legendaries in 10,000 years? I promise. Ching Su swore solemnly. All right. Elder Eclipse waved his hand. Then let's do it this way. We will open a pathway to the primal chaos space and let an go there to train. Even though we will have to hide for the next 10,000 years, as long as we can survive this 10,000 years, our family will end our days of hiding. We will once again stand at the pinnacle of glory as a universe master family. The other elders looked at each other and finally made a firm decision. Let's bet. I've had enough of these days of hiding. Even if our lineage is destroyed, there are still legacies of the great patriarchs in other primary planes. We can't be considered the culprit behind the extinction of the patriarch's lineage. Open a pathway to the primal chaos space. Let him go there and unleash his bloodline power to his heart's content. Whether our Crimson Hell patriarch's lineage can rise will depend on this. The elders finally made a decision after some internal struggle. This scene immediately made Sing Hui heave a sigh of relief. Since the decision has been made, there's no time to lose. We will now open a pathway to the primal chaos space. In addition, elders, I'll have to trouble you to run to the primary worlds of the other lineages and inform them of the upcoming operation. If possible, do your best to help us and attract the attention of the Eternal Shrine. Let the Eternal Shrine's attack on us be slightly reduced so that we can last longer. Elder Eclipse said, I understand. I'll be in charge of the arrangements for the ordinary members of the family. Let them scatter and hide in every corner of the primary plane. Also, the elders made arrangements one by one in an orderly manner. As for Elder Eclipse, he stood up and said to Sing Hui, Do you need to make some preparations and adjust your condition? The environment in the primal chaos space is different from the chaotic universe. Even if you possess the power of the Patriarch's bloodline, you cannot let your guard down. I've already made all the preparations. Furthermore, my condition is unprecedentedly good. I'm just waiting to head to the primal chaos space. Elder Eclipse nodded when he saw this. Then, there's no time to lose. I'll bring you to the pathway. With that said, he sighed. In fact, the pathway to the primal chaos space is the final path of retreat for our Lord of Scarlet Hell lineage. We have a great divine artifact bestowed upon us by the Lord of Scarlet Hell, allowing us to survive in the primal chaos space. However, the powers in the primal chaos space are not something we can touch or grasp. When the time comes, due to our lack of understanding of the powers of the primal chaos space, the number of cultivators will dwindle until they are wiped out. That method is only to prolong our feeble existence. This is also the reason why we have never taken that step. Sing Hui nodded when he heard that. I know that opening the primal chaos space pathway is equivalent to severing our final path of retreat. However, Elder, don't worry. Our lineage will definitely not be forced into such a state. I believe you. Elder Eclipse looked at Sing Hui as his eyes shimmered. As the only person to awaken the Patriarch's bloodline in 3 million years, I believe that you will definitely be able to lead our Lord of Scarlet Hell lineage back to its peak. Of course, if you're able to break through that chasm and become a chaos creature on the same level as the Great Patriarch, our lineage will truly be free of worries. Yes. Furthermore, that day won't be too far away. Sing Hui said. Elder Eclipse was filled with anticipation for the future as he led Sing Hui straight to the end of the ancestral land. In less than half a day, they arrived at a mountain range that floated 1,000 meters high. The mountain range was only several dozen kilometers wide, and although it only seemed like it hovered 1,000 meters away, only when Ching Su actually set foot on the mountain range did he discover that it was a completely different space. It was just that this space was hidden extremely well, such that even he failed to discover it. On the mountain peak, there were 4 legendary life forms with auras in no way inferior to mighty divine powers presiding over it. When they saw Elder Eclipse arrive, they nodded at him while constantly sizing up Sing Hui. Clearly, They had already received the news that a passageway to the Chaos Verse would be opened. They would provide a good cultivation environment for this junior who had awakened the patriarch's bloodline. As he still needed to make preparations for his family's retreat, Elder Eclipse didn't immediately open the passageway when he led Xinghui here. Instead, he waited for a month. A month later, the 4 legendary elders presiding over the area took action and gradually activated the passageway. Instantly, a rapidly spinning vortex gradually formed above the mountain range. Furthermore, it became deeper and deeper. As the vortex spun, one could hear rumbling sounds. It was as though an invisible force was tearing apart the universe will's seal on the Chaos Verse. It took an entire hour for the passageway to completely form. During this hour, Xinghui could vaguely sense that the dominion outside this world had undergone a complete upheaval. The universe will was enraged, but due to the ancestral land's world powers isolating it, no one could sense the changes in the outside world. An hour later, the passageway finally formed. An aura that had been absent for many years immediately surged out of the passageway. It was the fluctuation of Chaos Yuan Qi. Upon sensing the Chaos Yuan Qi, Xinghui took a deep breath. At that moment, he really felt like a dragon that had been trapped in the shallows for years and was about to return to the sea. All right, and enter the passageway immediately. We cannot guarantee how long this passageway will last. If you sense that the path back has been sealed, it means that our lineage has been completely wiped out. If you wish to return, you can only return through the Chaos Passageway in another main plane. We will open that Chaos Passageway once every 10,000 years. Grasp this opportunity well. Do not disappoint us. Elder Eclipse said earnestly and earnestly. Elder, don't worry. I will definitely cultivate to the peak as quickly as possible. Then I will return to this world and lead our Crimson Hell Patriarch's lineage to the peak. I will even kill Lord Burning Blood and rule this world. Xinghui agreed solemnly. Lord Searing Blood was still sealed in the Void Heaven Ring, so this Chaos Verse was almost like an undefended universe to him. If he could conquer it, he'd have the foundation to return to the immortal Tao civilization. If there came a day when he was unable to obtain the right for the immortal Tao civilization to survive in front of the 3 supreme existences, the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Gods, and the Lord of Time, he could still think of a way to transfer the immortal Tao civilization's cultivators to this world and ensure their survival. Of course, even if the immortal Tao civilization left their world and entered this Chaos Verse, they would definitely be annihilated due to the different great Tao laws of the Chaos Verse. In other words, if it really came to that point, the immortal Tao civilization's heritage would undoubtedly come to an end. Even if the immortal Tao civilization's cultivators could survive, they would only be able to preserve their lives. As for continuing the immortal Tao civilization's fire seed, it was already wishful thinking. The 2 Chaos Verse Great Tao laws were different, so how could they ensure the continuation of the civilization? Go on. We await the moment you return as a king. Elder Eclipse waved his hand. Xinghui didn't waste any more time. He took a step forward and entered the deep and unfathomable vortex. The moment he stepped into the vortex's teleportation forces swept up Xinghui as he rapidly traversed the excavated passageway. He was unbelievably fast, dozens of times faster than when Xinghui flew from the Lord of Chaos Dominion to the Chaos Void when he was at his peak. Under such circumstances, in less than half a year, the feeling of being stuck in the vortex and not being able to separate day and night suddenly dissipated. The next moment, a vast field of vision mixed with surging primal chaos Yuan Qi appeared before his eyes. The chaos void he had arrived. Chapter 946. I never thought that the chaotic void, which is feared by so many powerful beings, would feel so close to me. Xinghui sensed the turbulent, chaotic Yuan Qi around him and felt a sense of comfort. It was as if all the cells and acupoints in his body were breathing freely, and he was almost addicted to it. Fortunately, he woke up from this relaxed state of mind after a while. The most important thing now was to recover the energy he had consumed to escape the pursuit of the universal will as soon as possible. When he thought of that, Ching Su did not waste any time. He rapidly absorbed the chaotic energy in the surroundings and sent it into his illusory world of immortals. Then, he used the illusory world of immortals to convert it into various powers of laws and recover his strength. Since the virtual immortal Tao civilization wasn't a true chaos verse, it naturally wouldn't recover as quickly as it did in the Lord of Chaos domain or the broken domain of the immortal Tao civilization, but it was still many times faster than it was in the sealed chaos verse of the Blazing Blood Cauldron. Sing Hui did his best to recover, and finally, in the 3,466th year, he recovered to his peak state. After recovering to his peak state, he did not immediately return to the chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord. Although it was foreseeable that the ANS would be hunted down by the Eternal Shrine for a period of time after opening the passage to the outside of the chaotic void and exposing their identity as the descendants of the Lord of Scarlet Hell, with Sing Hui's current combat strength, even if he really returned to the chaotic universe, he would not be able to match the entire Eternal Shrine. In addition, he had previously told the ANS that it would take 10,000 years for them to wait for him. Now that only 3,400 years had passed, he believed that the ANS would have enough power to deal with the suppression of the Eternal Shrine. After all, the Yin family was backed by a remnant force of the chaotic universe. Although this force had been in decline for 3 million years, the foundation of a direct descendant of a chaotic being was definitely not something that the Eternal Shrine, which represented the Lord of the Burning Blood, could easily wipe out, as he thought that Ching Su had already taken out a fragment of laws without any hesitation at all. Nether Glow Fragment. As he had refined a fragment of laws in the Eternal Divine Hall before, Ching Su had refined 9 types of laws now. The fragment of laws that belonged to the divine beast Yu Ying was the 10th type. Even with the excellent foundation he had obtained from the Fortune Jade, it still took him 280 years to refine it. Fortunately, due to the mystical nature of the creation Divine Jade, they succeeded on their first try. They were not like the Dian Holy Sage, the Giant Dragon City Master, the White Emperor, and the Bamboo Shadow Sword Master, who faced the fate of failing to smelt the precepts. After refining the 10th law fragment, Sing Hui did not stop. After adapting to the new environment for a year, he immediately started refining the 11th law fragment, followed by the 12th. It took him more than 1,300 years to refine these 2 types of laws, including the time he used to recover and refine the nether fluorescent fragment. It had been 5,000 years since he arrived in the primal chaos void. The 12 godly beast laws are finally complete. Next, I will use the virtual immortal Tao civilization as a world and use the power of the laws of the 12 godly beasts to trace back to the origin point plate and recreate the majestic scene of Pangu opening the sky. From there, I will turn the virtual immortal Tao civilization into a real primal chaos universe. A primal chaos universe that belongs to the immortal Tao civilization, or rather, the Eldritch world. Sing Hui muttered to himself. He understood that at this moment, he had reached the most crucial step in his cultivation journey. If he was willing, he would be able to trace back to the origin point plate and become Pangu. He would then be able to recreate Pangu opening the sky and rush to the 4th level of Primal Chaos Realm, becoming a real Primal Chaos being. By then, he might not be able to reach the level of the Master of Primal Chaos Realm, second only to the Eternal Ultimate Stage, or the Burning Blood Master, who is equivalent to the 5th level of Primal Chaos Realm. However, it would not be a problem for him to reach the level of an ordinary evil god or the Master of Red Hell, who could roam the Primal Chaos Void. However, Sing Hui thought about Pangu's final fate after he opened the sky. However, he hesitated for a moment. After Pangu opened the sky, he fell and became all things. That was why the Eldritch world and the brilliance of the immortal Tao civilization was born. Would he face the same fate if he tried to break through to the fourth level of primal chaos realm and become a real primal chaos being? Compared to those primal chaos beings who have been stuck at the third level for countless years, my foundation is still lacking. Moreover, the Fortune Jade is still missing a corner. This is a problem I cannot avoid. Even if I use the Fortune Jade as a foundation and gather the laws of the 12 divine beasts to trace back to the origin point plate like the 12 celestial fiends formation, the success rate of my metamorphosis is much higher than ordinary primal chaos beings. There are even images of time and space that prove that I will become a primal chaos being in the future, but the metamorphosis of a primal chaos being is too difficult. If I really want to make sure that nothing goes wrong, I should find the last piece of Fortune Jade as well. Sing Hui muttered to himself. He had to admit that he wasn't ready to break through to the fourth level of primal chaos realm. Be it in terms of foundation or mentality, he wasn't ready to break through to the fourth level. I'll think about it after I occupy the primal chaos universe of the Burning Blood Master and gain a deeper understanding of the fourth and fifth levels of primal chaos realm. The giant Dragon City Lord has already obtained information about the last piece of Fortune Jade. As long as I can find him and trade with him, I'll be able to obtain the last piece of Fortune Jade. Given my abilities, I'll naturally be able to get my hands on it. Even the Black and White Exalted Lords, ranked first on the ultimate god ranking, won't be able to stop me. Sing Hui had a plan when he thought of this. He then turned his gaze to the passageway that the family had opened to the primal chaos void. 5,000 years was twice as fast as the 10,000 years Sing Hui had mentioned earlier. As a result, the family was still maintaining the passageway. In other words, the family hadn't been defeated by the Eternal Shrine yet. It seems that the family isn't simple at all, Sing Hui thought to himself. He didn't waste any more time. He took a step forward and followed the passageway to the main plane on the other side. The teleportation process was as long as ever. Half a year later, as the surrounding environment and laws became oppressive again, Sing Hui's figure appeared on the floating mountain range where he had left. This world, Sing Hui frowned. He hadn't felt it before he had recovered his cultivation base. Now that he was at his peak and was living in the primal chaos universe of the Burning Blood Master where the power of laws was severely sealed, he immediately felt as though he was shackled and shackled. Moreover, these shackles and shackles were incomparably vast, majestic, and unfathomable. Even though he was now much stronger than when he had been trapped in the Eternal Shrine, he still couldn't truly break these shackles and shackles. The power of laws. The power of the will of the universe. It seems that only by destroying the will of the universe can I break these shackles and shackles. Although he couldn't completely break these shackles and shackles, but Sing Hui's figure trembled as the illusory world of immortal Tao materialized behind him. As soon as the illusory world of immortal Tao materialized, the sealing force exerted by the entire primal chaos receded like the tide and was pushed aside by the world of immortal Tao. Waves and ripples formed where the two worlds collided. I can't break these shackles, but I can hold them off for now. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the floating mountain range. The figure blinked when he saw Sing Hui standing at the front of the passageway, but then exclaimed in pleasant surprise, It's you? You've returned from the chaos? How'd it go? Did you completely unearth the power of the great primogenitor's bloodline? Sing Hui looked at the figure who'd suddenly appeared. It was a legendary elder who oversaw the chaos passageway. He found it strange when he hadn't noticed anyone when he'd first appeared, but now that he'd suddenly appeared, he could vaguely guess what was going on. Is the situation very dangerous now? Yes. If it weren't for the other branches sending legends as reinforcements and the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood taking advantage of the situation, we probably wouldn't have been able to hold on 3,000 years ago. However, even with the reinforcements of the other branches and the interference of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood, we still wouldn't have been able to hold on for long. If you don't return within 100 years, we plan to close the passageway and retreat. Singhui nodded when he heard this. What kind of faction is this shrine of sacrificial blood? It's a faction that's vaguely hostile to the eternal shrine. You should know that although this chaotic universe was created by the Lord of Burning Blood, the Lord of Burning Blood had set up the laws of the universe so that even legendary creatures who'd reached the peak of their cultivation could only dream of touching the realm of chaos. In other words, the Lord of Burning Blood had cut off the path of ascension for legendary creatures. Under such circumstances, even though the entire universe belonged to the Lord of Burning Blood, there were still many legendary creatures who wanted to break through the shackles of the universe and reach the realm of chaos so that their lives could sublimate. Many similar legendary creatures united to form the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. Elder Ingzhun continued, 5,000 years ago, there was a change in the Eternal Shrine. Someone actually pretended to be the Lord of Burning Blood and acted presumptuously in the Eternal Shrine. However, the Lord of Burning Blood did not appear. We guess that the Lord of Burning Blood must have been severely injured when he went to invade another chaotic universe. This period of time might be the best time for us to break through the shackles of the universe and reach the realm of chaos. Therefore, we secretly encourage the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood to take advantage of the opportunity to rebel against the Eternal Shrine. Singhui immediately understood the nature of the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood when he heard Elder Ingzhun's words. It was probably equivalent to the Great Development Gate in the territory of the Lord of Chaos. However, the Lord of Chaos was different from the Lord of Burning Blood. The Lord of Burning Blood had sealed his own world and cut off the path of cultivators to become chaos beings. However, the Lord of Chaos was too rich to care about the cultivators under his sect. In any case, even if the cultivators under his sect broke through to become chaos beings, they would not be a match for him. Ani, have you reached the realm above the legendary realm? The Eternal Shrine should be at its weakest point in recent years. If you can really reach the realm above the legendary realm, you can rally all the legendary creatures to defeat the Eternal Shrine and even slay the will of the universe. You can break the shackles of the entire universe and liberate the entire universe. Chapter 9:47. Above Legendary? Singhui muttered to himself for a moment. He had now condensed 12 great Tao laws. Although he could not obtain the blessing of the 12 laws because this was not the domain of the Lord of Chaos, the refinement of the laws made the virtual immortal Tao civilization world more solid than before. It was so solid that he could rely on his own virtual immortal Tao civilization to break free from the restraints of the laws formed by the will of the universe for a short period of time, and thus unleash his own combat strength. While such an outburst would not allow him to fight against 1,000 legendary creatures, it would be easy for him to fight against 100. As long as there were other legendary champions assisting him, he would be able to break through the encirclement of thousands of legendary champions when he was trapped in the Eternal Shrine and was hunted down by them. With such combat strength by his side, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was above legendary. Though I've yet to become a being of chaos, I've reached the critical point of breaking through and could be considered above legendary. As long as there aren't too many ordinary legendary champions, I could easily defeat dozens or even hundreds of them. Singhui said, dozens or hundreds? Easily defeated? Elder Ingzhun was pleasantly surprised when he heard Singhui's words. At present, the greatest threat to us is the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine, but he could barely deal with the encirclement of 30 or 40 legendary champions and even had to evade their attacks. You could easily defeat dozens or hundreds of legendary champions. You must be above legendary. From now on, as long as the Lord of Burning Blood does not appear, you could be called the number one person in the universe. Under your leadership, we will certainly be able to overthrow the Eternal Shrine's rule and even break through the will of the universe's seal on the universe in the future and usher in a new era of great cultivation. Singhui nodded slightly. At the same time, he also glanced at the Lord of Burning Blood that he had suppressed in the Void Heaven Ring. The Lord of Burning Blood had been extremely peaceful recently. He had basically not moved at all. If it were not for the fact that Qing Su could sense that his presence had not changed at all, he basically would have believed that this terrifying evil god, who could even devour and kill true chaotic beings, had already died. Withdrawing his gaze from the Void Heaven Ring, Xing Hui said directly, "Our family's ancestral land should still be in danger. Take me there." "All right." Elder Ing Zhen complied, and quickly flew out of this floating mountain range with Xing Hui. As his figure shuttled through the mountain range, he flew out of the underground space again and came directly to the ancestral land in the periphery. This ancestral land had been managed by the clan for countless years, and it could be said to be impregnable. Countless talismans, formations, and restrictions filled every corner of the ancestral land. Moreover, although it appeared to be in the main plane, it was actually a part of Crimson Hell's Chaos Verse that had perished all those years ago. It was just that Crimson Hell's Chaos Verse had been devoured by Crimson Bloodlord, so it couldn't become independent and was still affected by the various laws of Crimson Bloodlord's Chaos Verse. That's an E. I'm not mistaken. That's really an E. And he actually came back. Didn't he say that it would take 10,000 years? Only 5,000 years have passed, right? Half of the time has passed. And E? Is he the young man who awakened the primogenitor's bloodline? As Elder Ing Zhen brought Xing Hui to the ancestral land, a series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. Elder Eclipse, who was fighting on the front lines, immediately left the battlefield and flew over. He asked with anticipation, "And you came back so quickly. Did you finish your cultivation in advance?" "I was worried that our clan would be in danger, so I rushed back immediately after finishing my cultivation." Xing Hui nodded at Elder Eclipse. At the same time, several old men with legendary cultivation had also rushed over. Although these few legendary experts were in the ancestral land, helping Elder Eclipse and the rest fend off the Eternal Temple's attacks, their attire and combat style were clearly different from the clan's bloodline. Elder Eclipse hurriedly introduced them to Xing Hui. "And these are the other bloodlines of our Crimson Hell's primogenitor. They are Hunyuan, Yugu, Tsang, Thank you for your help." Xing Hui nodded at the few people in front of him. At the same time, he saw the sizing up and suspicion in their eyes. In order to successfully grasp the power left behind by the Lord of Crimson Hell, he didn't waste any time. He directly said, "The current situation should be rather dangerous, right? How many experts has the Eternal Temple sent to attack us? I'll first appear and repel those invaders." "Your cultivation level has broken through to the legendary realm?" Elder Eclipse didn't answer, but asked immediately. "That's right. That's great." Elder Eclipse was immediately pleasantly surprised. "Above the legendary realm? I've never heard of anything above the legendary realm. Even the Grand Priest is merely at the legendary realm. But he possesses the creation divine artifact bestowed to him by the Burning Blood King, and that's why he's able to exert strength that far surpasses us." Hunyuan, who had come to provide assistance, frowned as though he didn't believe it. "Just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist." Xing Hui had a smile on his face as he turned to Elder Eclipse. "Time is of the essence. Elder, it's best you tell me about the enemy situation." Elder Eclipse obviously trusted Qing Su very much. When he heard Qing Su's question, he replied in a hurry, "Due to the other factions helping us share the pressure, coupled with the rise of the Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall, and the fact that some of the organizations that were originally under the Eternal Shrine chose to stand by and do nothing, the Eternal Shrine can only mobilize around 1,500 legends right now. Out of these 1,500, they've left over 300 to guard the Eternal Shrine in case something happens to it. Half of the remaining 1,200 have gone to suppress the Sacrificial Blood Divine Hall, while another 300 have been drawn over by the other factions. Only around 300 legends have truly come to attack our ancestral land. After all these years of fighting, 24 of the 300 legends have died. They only have around 280 to 290 legends left now. 280 to 290? Sing Hui was somewhat surprised. So few? Few. By the side, Netherbone was immediately displeased when he heard Sing Hui's words. Those are legendary experts. Even if the entire universe's beyonder powers are restricted to an extreme, it's still easy for a legendary expert to suppress a main plane. In fact, the total number of legendary experts in the entire chaotic universe doesn't exceed 4,000. Now, with nearly 1/10 of the legendary experts surrounding us, you actually think that's few? Singhui glanced at Netherbone and smiled faintly without replying. He knew that the best response to these legendary experts was to intimidate them with his powerful strength. If there are less than 300 left, then we can counterattack. Everyone, follow me. Let's defeat them. After Tsinghui said that, he didn't give Elder Eclipse and company any time to react. He transformed into a stream of light and charged out. Counterattack? Elder Eclipse was slightly taken aback as he hurriedly shouted, "No, we only have about 100 legendary experts on our side. How can we withstand the encirclement of nearly 300 legendary experts? Even with the help of the ancestral land's runes, restrictions, and arrays, we can barely hold on." Before Elder Eclipse could finish, he was interrupted by Elder Ingzhun. "Elder, since an E is so confident, let's follow him. After all, an E is now an expert above the legendary realm. Before the real battle, no one knows what level is above the legendary realm." After saying that, he said to Xuechuan, Netherbone, Sung E, and company, "When the time comes, you can also take action at your own discretion. If an E can't do anything to the 300 legendary experts outside, you can defend the ancestral land. If the strength an E displays is strong enough to defeat the 300 legendary experts, then I implore everyone to take action with us when the time comes. We'll be the last force to crush the other party and completely defeat these eternal shrine cultivators, or even kill them. Of course, we're definitely not people who can't tell right from wrong. If an E really displays such ability, we'll definitely assist him with all our strength to destroy the eternal shrine and even the shackles that the universe will have placed on us." Xuechuan expressed his stance without hesitation. "All right, let's follow," Elder Ingzhun said as he quickly flew out. At this moment, outside the ancestral land, layers of flowing light were like shields that constantly cut the space outside. Every time the legendary elders of the family were in danger, this layer of flowing light would wrap them into another void, allowing them to leave the battlefield and give them a chance to catch their breath. At the same time, if any of the Eternal Shrine's legendary experts were alone, they would be wrapped up by this space and transported to a battle formation formed by 3 to 5 legendary experts. They would then use the power of these legendary experts to besiege and kill them. It was by relying on this strange space-dividing power that the family could hold on until now and even kill 24 experts from the Eternal Shrine. Singhui flew at full speed, as fast as a flowing light. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at this void. His gaze paused for a moment in the void, and soon landed on a battle formation formed by more than 30 legendary powerhouses. He immediately said to Elder Wuyan, who was presiding over the ancestral lands formation, "Send me to that area." "Huh, an E, you're back? How's your cultivation? Now isn't the time to talk about this. Send me there." Singhui said. "There? No, there are a total of 34 legendary powerhouses there, and among them, there are 4 advanced legendary powerhouses and 1 peak legendary powerhouse. Their combat power is comparable to 60 legendary powerhouses. Even the High Priest of the Eternal Shrine would be in danger if he were to be surrounded by them. If I were to send you there, you would be courting death. They have the combat strength of 60 legendary experts. Since I've completed my cultivation, you naturally understand my current level. Send me there. Send him there. Furthermore, we will keep an eye on him. If there's any danger, we will immediately teleport in to rescue him." Elder Wuyan was still hesitating when a voice sounded. It was Elder Eclipse, Elder Ingzhun, and company who had followed closely behind. Elder Wuyan swept her gaze across Elder Eclipse and company. The weakest of the elders was a high-level legendary. If they were to take action in time, they would be able to rescue Tsing Hui even if he was in danger. With this in mind, she nodded and said to Tsing Hui, "Then be careful. I'll send you a now." Chapter 948. Swoosh. Space flickered. Tsing Hui's figure directly appeared among the 34 legendary life forms that belong to the Eternal Shrine. Legendary powerhouses contained powerful life forces that interfered with the operation of the surrounding space. Therefore, when several legendary powerhouses gathered together, the Infamily's array was unable to separate them individually. As a result, the Infamily could only use space to trap the 34 legendary powerhouses, causing them to be trapped and unable to escape for a short period of time. However, the trapped legendary powerhouses naturally wouldn't sit still and wait for death. They attacked the space that had been cut out with all their might in a futile attempt to break it. These spaces were equivalent to the fragments of the chaotic universe left behind by the Lord of Scarlet Hell. Breaking one of the Infamily's foundations was a little less. Now, the Infamily didn't have much space left. The moment all the space shattered, the Infamily would be unable to withstand the Eternal Shrine's attack and be completely defeated. The lineup of 34 legendary powerhouses was so powerful that unless all the legendary powerhouses of the Infamily swarmed together, there was no way to defeat them. In fact, even if all the legendary powerhouses of the Infamily were teleported over, as long as the 34 legendary powerhouses took a defensive stance, the other legendary powerhouses, without any checks and balances, would naturally do their best to break through the space to reinforce them. When that time came, it would be unknown who would kill who. Under such circumstances, when Tsing Hui was teleported into the space that had been cut out alone, the 34 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were stunned. One of them even blinked, thinking that he had seen wrongly. These traitors actually only teleported one person over? A member of the Eternal Shrine, with a high-level legendary cultivation base, said with a tone full of doubt. He even thought that there was a trap in the other party's actions. However, when the leader of the legendary powerhouses determined that there was only one person who had been teleported over, he ordered without hesitation, "Kill him." The other legendary beings who had received the order did not say anything else, charging towards the green ruins in an instant. When this scene landed in the eyes of Elder Eclipse, Elder Bloodchuan, Elder Wuyin, and the others who were at the periphery, their hearts were completely in their mouths. "Eclipse, keep an eye on them. Once he can't hold on, teleport us over immediately. Be careful of the interference of the life magnetic fields of those legendary powerhouses during battle." "I understand." Elder Eclipse nodded his head forcefully as he spoke. However, before he could finish his words, what happened next caused his voice to come to an abrupt halt in that isolated space. Tsing Hui met the 34 legendary champions who were lunging at him head-on. As the vague silhouette of an immortal civilization flashed over his body, the shackles imposed upon him by the entire universe seemed to be broken at once. The power of a legendary life form was no longer an upper limit on him, and with a single move, he condensed a beam of sword light, carrying a radiance that illuminated the void as it shot towards the fastest legendary champion. Before the legendary champion who had manifested his powerful body could react, the beam of sword light had already brushed past him. It was like using a soldering iron to melt snow. That legendary life form was annihilated on the spot, not leaving behind any aura as he was wiped out by Tsing Hui's sword light. After slaying a legendary champion, Tsing Hui's movements did not slow down at all. With a clench of his fist, the sword light that brushed past him shattered on the spot, exploding into countless tiny sword cheese. As the sword cheese surged, the 20-odd legendary powerhouses who were close behind were shot to death by the sword cheese. Some of them tried their best to counterattack, dispersing the sword cheese, but even more had their bodies pierced by the sword cheese, forming holes in their powerful legendary bodies. Upon seeing this scene, the leader of the legendary powerhouses was alarmed and furious. He seemed to have unleashed some secret technique as he instantly appeared in front of Tsing Hui. With a roar, his legendary body manifested, and a thunderous blow that carried a force that caused the entire space to tremble violently struck at Tsing Hui. Die! It's useless. Ching Su struck out with both hands. He did not even draw the Scarlet Abyss sword. Instead, he used the projection of the world of immortals to break free from the restraints of the will of the universe, erupting with a flash that was even sharper than the strike of the legendary expert. The sword light whistled, even causing the space that had been cut to rapidly tear apart, forming fissures that spread and collided with the thunderous blow of the legendary powerhouse. At once, endless brilliance and sword cheese exploded at the same time, forming streaks of sword cheese that did not lose out to the full-powered blow of a legendary powerhouse. They shot in all directions, once again piercing a large number of holes in the bodies of several legendary powerhouses who were closest to them. The most unlucky one even had his head blown apart by the sword cheese, his spirit destroyed, and he died on the spot. As for the pinnacle legendary powerhouse who had collided head-on with Tsing Hui's sword cheese, he screamed miserably as his entire arm and half of his body was directly minced into a bloody pulp by the sword cheese. His eyes were filled with horror. How can your strength be so tyrannical? Tsing Hui did not bother to answer such meaningless questions. He clenched his hands, and streaks of sword cheese emerged from his body. They were the 49 great Tao precepts that formed the immortal civilization. At present, these 49 great Tao precepts formed 49 streaks of sword cheese, and under the guidance of the coalescence Great Tao, they formed a sword array that instantly surrounded the remaining legendary powerhouses and continuously minced them. After all, with the illusory world of immortal civilization holding up the restraints of the universe, his battle with these people was basically the same as cheating. These people's cultivation could only reach the legendary level at most. Even if they relied on some special techniques and secret techniques that allowed them to unleash power that was far beyond a legendary level, their strength was still limited to a certain range. It was like a game character with an upper limit of 1,000 points of attack. Even if you had more powerful skills that could double your lethality, your basic attributes were limited, and at best, you could only burst out with a damage of 2,000 points. However, Tsing Hui seemed to have broken the rules of this world. He was playing a private version of the game character, and the upper limit of the attack of the private version easily exceeded 10,000 points. Even if Tsing Hui could only use normal attacks and could not use any skills, the damage would still be at least 10,000 points. Under such circumstances, how could the two be compared? The 49 streaks of sword cheese were wantonly in this void, constantly slicing those legendary powerhouses. Even though these legendary powerhouses were all elites of the Eternal Shrine, and there were several high-level legendary powerhouses and one at the peak of the legendary level, they still could not escape from the numerous streaks of sword cheese. Moreover, unlike the outside, due to the space being sealed, those legendary powerhouses who were constantly being slaughtered could not escape even if they wanted to. They could almost only watch themselves and their friends around them being annihilated by the 49 streaks of sword cheese. Despair and screams instantly filled the entire space. This is the power above the legendary level. Elder Eclipse, who was presiding over the formation in the ancestral land, could not help but widen his eyes when he saw Tsing Hui single-handedly killing the 34 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine. Oh my god! Among those 34 legendary powerhouses, there are several high-level legendary powerhouses and one at the peak of the legendary level. But under such circumstances, they can't even fight back. Is the realm above the legendary level so powerful? An E. Is this the power that an E was given after awakening the bloodline of the ancestor? With such power, why would our Scarlet Hell still need to hide from the Eternal Shrine's pursuit? Legendary powerhouses? So what if there are legendary powerhouses? Under Lord and Yi's leadership, we can kill as many as they come. The other legendary powerhouses who had witnessed this shocking scene with their own eyes were also excited. Hunyuan, Yugu, Yi, and the other legendary powerhouses looked at each other and saw the shame in each other's eyes. But the next moment, they seemed to have thought of something and said at the same time, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Since Lord Yi is so powerful, it won't be difficult for him to keep all these lackeys of the Eternal Shrine here. What we need to do next is to do our best to delay them, and at the same time create a good opportunity for Lord Yi to kill all these bastards who have slaughtered countless people of our Scarlet Hell for thousands of years. Yes, create an opportunity for Lord Yi to stop them. This is our ancestral land, our battlefield. Once they enter, they can forget about escaping. As long as we can buy time for Lord Yi, these 280 legendary powerhouses will be wiped out in one fell swoop. The Eternal Shrine will be greatly weakened by such a tragic loss, which will pave the way for us to defeat the Eternal Shrine in the future. Quick, summon all the resting legendary elders. It's time for us to fight back. Now it's time for these lackeys of the Eternal Shrine to pay the price for what they have done all these years." The legendary powerhouses who came to their senses shouted excitedly. Without needing anyone to make arrangements, they quickly rushed into the severed space in groups of 3 to 5 to prevent the trapped legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine from breaking through the severed space and escaping from the ancestral land. In fact, many legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were shocked when they saw that a squadron led by a top legendary powerhouse on their side had been wiped out by Hui alone. The Scarlet Hell has such a powerhouse? Retreat. Let's retreat. No wonder the Scarlet Hell has been so active all these years. Such an unforeseen event has happened. Immediately report this matter to the High Priest. Damn it, break the space. Let's meet up and retreat at full speed. Amidst the shouts, Hui had already killed all the 34 legendary powerhouses in the severed space. After killing the 34 legendary powerhouses, Hui waved at Elder Eclipse without hesitation. After receiving Hui's signal, Elder Eclipse carefully sized up Hui. Seeing that he didn't seem to be injured or exhausted, he immediately activated the array of the ancestral land again and sent him into another space where 29 legendary powerhouses of the Eternal Shrine were. Immediately, a one-sided massacre began again. The battle lasted for an entire day. Thanks to the unique environment of the ancestral grounds, apart from 13 of the 289 legendary experts of the Eternal Temple who used some treasures to rapidly shatter the spatial seal and escape from the range of the formations of the ancestral grounds, the remaining 276 were all slain without any exception. Out of the 276 legendary experts, a total of 261 had died to Qing Su's hands. In other words, the number of enemies killed by the Lord of Scarlet Hell's legendary powerhouses was not more than 15, which was less than 1/17 of Hui's. Chapter 949. The Eternal Shrine's encirclement of the infamily that had lasted for thousands of years had finally come to an end. Furthermore, it ended at the cost of nearly 300 legendary experts of the Eternal Shrine being wiped out. After the last remaining legendary powerhouse of the Eternal Shrine was killed, all the members of the infamily, be it the legendary level elders or those who were only in the moonlight and glorious sun levels, could not help but cheer. All kinds of shouts filled the ancestral land of the infamily, as if that was the only way to vent their emotions that had been suppressed by the Eternal Shrine all these years. A complete victory. Nearly 300 legendary experts were defeated by an E alone. There's hope. In this battle, we see the hope of completely defeating the Eternal Shrine and reviving our Scarlet Hell lineage. Everyone in the ancestral land was celebrating, cheering for this unprecedented victory. However, Hui's expression was normal. He was now at the critical point of breaking through to become a true chaotic life form. The almighty experts that were almost invincible in his eyes in the past were nothing at this time. If he was not worried about the probability of failure, he could have already broken through to the fourth tier of the chaotic realm and become a top existence on the same level as the evil god. It seems that my performance did not disappoint the elders. Sing Hui's figure flashed and came to the side of Elder Eclipse, Hunyuan, Yugu, and the others. He said with a faint smile, "Not only did you not disappoint us, but you also gave us a pleasant surprise." Elder Eclipse was full of smiles. Hunyuan also stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Sorry, Your Excellency and E. We offended you with our words just now. Please forgive us. It's fine. You did not understand the state I was in at that time, so I can understand why you said that." Sing Hui responded. At the same time, he said, "Now, everyone should have no more questions about us overthrowing the Eternal Shrine and even defeating the will of the universe and breaking the shackles on us, right?" "No," Hunyuan said. "We will summon all the legendary elders of the other lineages and gather all our forces together. Then, we will follow Your Excellency in E to counterattack the Eternal Shrine. I believe that under Your Excellency in Yi's leadership, we will definitely achieve the final victory in this counterattack. I will also actively contact the Sacrificial Blood Temple." Eclipse Elder said, "I will spread the news of our battle and let the people of Sacrificial Blood Temple understand the strength of our Scarlet Hell lineage. I believe that for the sake of victory, they will definitely rush over and form an alliance with us. With the help of the people of Sacrificial Blood Temple, our chances of defeating the Eternal Shrine will increase." Sing Hui nodded. "Everyone, there's no time to lose. I think it's best to take care of these matters as soon as possible. After all, apart from the Eternal Shrine and the universe accident, we still have another greatest enemy, and that is the Lord of Searing Blood, who rules over the entire Chaos Verse. Although we speculate that the Lord of Searing Blood should have died in the invasion of that unknown Chaos Verse, no one can be sure that this information is true until we see his corpse. Therefore, the sooner we carry out our plan, the better. It's best if we break the shackles imposed on this Chaos Verse by the will of the universe, and have one of us break through to become a true Chaos life form. Only then will we have a chance to survive in front of the Lord of Searing Blood." Eclipse Elder and the others nodded solemnly when they heard Sing Hui's words. The Lord of Searing Blood was their greatest enemy. "I understand. We'll do it right away. Your Excellency in E, the upcoming battle will depend on you. Therefore, you should go and rest. Leave the trivial matters to us." "That's right, Your Excellency in E. You are our anchor. As long as you can maintain your peak state and attack at all times, I believe that we will never lose." Everyone shouted in agreement. "Then I'll have to trouble you." Sing Hui did not stand on ceremony. He could not be bothered to spend time on trivial matters. Otherwise, he would not have wasted time gaining the family's trust. After Hunyuan, Netherbone, and the others left, and even Eclipse Elder left his instructions, Sing Hui spoke again. He called out to Elder Ingzhun, who presided over the ancestral land. "Elder, we have inherited the lineage of the mighty Scarlet Hell Patriarch as a chaos life form. I wonder if the mighty Scarlet Hell Patriarch left behind any precious treasures for our descendants before his slumber that would allow us to deal with the Lord of Searing Blood one day? Did he leave behind any precious treasures before his slumber?" Elder Ingzhan frowned before shaking his head regretfully. "If there were such treasures, we would have used them long ago. We wouldn't have waited until now." "Nothing." Sing Hui sighed inwardly. According to the family, the Lord of Scarlet Hell had once been fortunate enough to see a true eternal life form. Furthermore, he had received guidance from that eternal life form. As for eternal, eternal was the ultimate realm that the Lord of Chaos, Master of Gods, and Master of Time pursued all their lives. It was the end of the cultivation path, the final destination of all supreme life forms. Even the slightest thing left behind by such a supreme existence would be of great help to any practitioner who had not reached the eternal realm. This kind of help would even come in handy when he fought against the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods in the future. However, unfortunately, just as Tsing Hui expressed his regret, Elder Yingzhen seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly said, "It seems like he might have left something behind." Huh? A glint flashed in Tsing Hui's eyes as he hurriedly asked, "What did he leave behind?" "A divine artifact, a supreme treasure with the power of prophecy." "Prophecy?" "Yes, prophecy." Elder Yingzhen nodded heavily. That supreme treasure is an existence similar to a crystal ball. From time to time, a river of stars would flow through it. Every time the river of stars flowed, some strange information and images would burst out from it. We can't analyze these images. It's only when something happens in reality one day that the information and images will suddenly become clear and be grasped by us. What's recorded inside is actually that major event that happened. Information and images that can't be analyzed. Tsing Hui suddenly felt that this statement was very familiar. Although that treasure has the power of prophecy, it's always a hindsight. It's only when something happens that the image and information can be analyzed by us. It was like this when the Bu family of the Scarlet Hell's primogenital line was destroyed. It was like this when the supreme legend Simon, who had the greatest hope of breaking the shackles, fell. It was the same even in the Battle of Herrick. Although many families have spent a lot of energy to study this supreme treasure and decipher its mysteries, there hasn't been any progress in 3 million years. Today, apart from a few elders who are still studying that treasure, most people have already completely given up on it. "Can you take me to see that treasure?" "Of course." Elder Yingzhen smiled. "Now, you're about to lead our Scarlet Hell's many branch families to counterattack the Eternal Shrine. There's an 80 to 90% chance that you'll be elected as the commander of our Scarlet Hell's branch. We'll do our best to satisfy any of your requests as long as they don't infringe on the interests of our Scarlet Hell's branch." Tsing Hui nodded slightly. The family and the others' attitude didn't waste his previous efforts on them. Under Yingzhen's lead, Tsing Hui quickly arrived at a courtyard in the depths of the ancestral land. An elder originally lived in this courtyard, studying the crystal ball-like treasure. However, the ancestral land had encountered a crisis not long ago. So as an elder, he naturally had to go and kill the enemy. As a result, there were only a few Star Radiant Stage juniors in the courtyard. Yingzhen said something to those juniors and directly came to a room in the side courtyard. Very soon, he took out the crystal ball-like treasure from inside. "It's this item," Elder Yingzhen said. Tsing Hui looked at the crystal ball in front of him. Very soon, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. Although the crystal ball was right in front of him, he could see it and even touch it, but Tsing Hui didn't sense it as if it didn't exist. If it weren't for the fact that Tsing Hui used the changes in the airflow and the slight changes caused by the compression of space, he wouldn't have been able to tell that it was a sphere. After a while, Tsing Hui seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly said, "Eternity substance." "That's right, eternity substance." Elder Yingzhen nodded. This crystal ball is no different from an ordinary crystal ball when it doesn't reveal the Milky Way. When we first discovered this item, if it weren't for the fact that it was eternity substance, I'm afraid that we would have already abandoned it. In that case, we naturally wouldn't have been able to detect the mystical nature of this treasure. At this point, he paused slightly and laughed bitterly. Of course, it's true that this item is mystical, but whether it can be considered a treasure or not is still unknown. Tsing Hui stared at the crystal ball for a while and asked, "Approximately how long does it take for the Milky Way image to flash?" "This is impossible to determine. Sometimes it flashes several times a day, and sometimes it doesn't even flash for several years. The elders have studied it for several million years, but they haven't found any pattern." "There's no pattern?" Tsing Hui held the crystal ball that was about the size of a soccer ball in his hands and carefully sized it up. After a while, he asked again, "Can you give this item to me?" Elder Yingzhen hesitated for a moment, but he quickly agreed. "This item is currently being studied by the elders. Moreover, I believe that after so many years without any results, they should be about to give up. Since you need it, you can directly take it. When the time comes, I will properly discuss it with the elders. I believe that they will be able to understand. Many thanks. Xinghui nodded. Although he currently didn't understand what was so mystical about this item, its eternity substance alone could be considered precious. It had to be known that eternity substance was more precious than the material of a good fortune divine tool. Even if he ultimately couldn't figure out the use of this treasure, he could at most let the Scarlet Abyss sword swallow and refine it. It would still be of great benefit to the Scarlet Abyss sword's evolution. Chapter 950. 3 days passed by quickly. After 3 days of rest, the people of the Yin family had not only recovered their strength, but they also passed the news to the other branches of the Lord of Scarlet Hell. They even formed an alliance with the Shrine of Sacrificial Blood. The three forces agreed to attack the Eternal Shrine from 3 directions at the same time. They would use 100 years to remove all the branches of the Eternal Shrine that were built in the various main planes. After 100 years, they would meet at the periphery of the Eternal Shrine and launch the final attack on the Eternal Shrine. During this operation, there would be people who would pay attention to the dispatch of the members of the Eternal Shrine. Once any of the 3 forces were about to face a threat, Xinghui would rush over to reinforce them, causing the people of the Eternal Shrine to go for wool and come home shorn. After the plan was set, the people of the Yin family did not delay and took the lead to launch a counterattack against the shrine in this plane. As the Eternal Shrine branch in this plane had already learned of the defeat at the front line, there were only a few defeated soldiers left in the palace. Xinghui did not need to take action personally. Taking advantage of this time, Xinghui quickly went to the country where immortal Emperor Songhai was reincarnated. It had been 5,000 years. He estimated that immortal Emperor Songhai should have awakened his memory. With the foundation that immortal Emperor Songhai had laid, it would not be a problem for him to quickly reach the Starlight rank or even the Moonlight rank after awakening his memory. Although the lifespan of the cultivators in this world was relatively short, it was not difficult for a Starlight rank to live for 10 to 20,000 years. As for the Moonlight rank and Glorious Sun rank, they could live longer. 5,000 years was not an unacceptable number. It should be this position. Xinghui traveled according to his memory and soon arrived at a vast continent. However, when he arrived at this continent, he frowned. In this position, he did not notice any decent forces. In other words, he did not notice any forces that had a Starlight rank powerhouse. After pondering for a while, Xinghui scanned the area with his divine telekinesis. Soon, his gaze landed on a cultivator whose life force was at the beginner platinum level. With a shuttle, he arrived at the center of the palace where the platinum level cultivator was. Xinghui's arrival naturally drew a series of shouts from the guards outside. But before they could speak, Xinghui had already unleashed his might as a legendary tier being. Instantly, the silver tier guards who were about to open their mouths and shout at Xinghui spat out blood and fell to the ground. Even the platinum tier champion who was listening to his subordinate's report could not help but unleash his aura. In the next second, his aura was completely suppressed, and the chair he was sitting on was shattered into pieces as he collapsed to the ground. A legendary master. Swish! In a flash, Xinghui appeared beside the platinum ranker and concealed his aura. I have a question for you. Facing a legendary tier being, the platinum tier middle-aged man did not care about embarrassing himself in front of his subordinates. He lowered his head and quickly answered respectfully, "My lord, if you have anything you need to know, please feel free to ask. I will definitely tell you everything I know. I remember that this territory used to be a huge empire 5,000 years ago. There were even a few Starlight rank powerhouses in the empire. Where's the empire now? This empire?" The middle-aged man was slightly startled and quickly answered, "My lord, are you talking about the ancient kingdom that has been around for 140,000 years, the Sata Empire?" The Sata Empire had already left this realm 4,800 years ago and went to other realms. Left? Why did they leave? This is because of the war between the great eternal shrine and the hidden top force, the infamily. As the middle-aged man spoke, he stole a glance at Tsing-Hui. He could not tell if Tsing-Hui represented the infamily or the eternal shrine, but he still said carefully and respectfully, "The eternal shrine is the ruler of all realms, but there are also dozens of legendary tier powerhouses hidden in the infamily. When a battle between legendary tier beings breaks out, even if the will of the universe prevents the supernatural laws from appearing, it could still destroy the entire realm. The Sata Empire is only tens of millions of kilometers away from the main battlefield, which is extremely close to legendary tier beings. Even if the matter has nothing to do with them, the Sata Empire has to make a choice and move to avoid being affected by the shockwaves of the battle. So this is the reason." Tsing-Hui was a little surprised. A battle between legendary tier beings was indeed devastating for the small Sata Empire. Under the circumstances where the battlefield was only tens of millions of kilometers away from their empire, the Sata Empire would face destruction if anything went wrong. Under such circumstances, it was completely reasonable for them to choose to move. In fact, it's not just the Sata Empire. All the top forces in the entire realm that have the ability to travel between realms have left this realm. Currently, other than the Eternal Shrine and the Infamily, it would be difficult to find a few astral tier powerhouses in the entire realm. Where did the Sata Empire move to? Tsing-Hui asked. I don't know. Information from outside the realm is not something I can access. After hearing this, Tsing-Hui did not make things difficult for the platinum rank middle-aged man. His figure flashed, and he left the territory. At the same time, he took out a crystal talisman given to him by the Infamily elders. This crystal talisman was similar in nature to the communication jade amulet, but its effect was more powerful. Not to mention being able to send messages within a single plane. Even if two people holding the talisman were separated by dozens of planes, the talisman would be able to receive messages quickly. Elder Eclipse, do you know where the Sata Empire has moved to? The Sata Empire? That small empire with only a dozen astral tier and one moonlight tier overseeing it? I didn't pay much attention to it, but if Elder and he needs to know, you should be able to find out soon. Then I'll have to trouble Elder Eclipse. I want to know their whereabouts. Haha, Elder and E is too polite. Please wait a moment. Elder Eclipse said as he sent a message to ask the other legendary powerhouses. Without making Tsing-Hui wait long, Elder Eclipse soon contacted Tsing-Hui again. Found it. The Sata Empire has moved to the Maple Realm. It's about 6 realms away from our realm. Hee. Compared to the strength of their empire, it's considered very far. Maple Realm? Elder, please send me the realm map. I'll give you the realm map now. By the way, are you going to the Maple Realm? Is something the matter? Do you need me to send someone to assist you? It's nothing, just a small matter. It'll be done soon. All right, you have to be careful. As news of this battle spreads, the Eternal Temple will definitely think of ways to target you. Don't fall into their trap. I understand. However, it'll take at least 3 to 5 years for the news to spread and for the Eternal Temple to react. I'll be back from the Maple Realm in 3 to 5 years. Haha, I'm just reminding you. Just be careful. If the Eternal Temple really mobilizes a large number of legendary powerhouses, we'll be the first to notice and inform you. Tsing-Hui nodded and ended the communication with Elder Eclipse. Then, he tore through the planar barrier and headed for the Maple Realm. The chaotic universe of the Burning Blood Lord was different from the territory of the Lord of Chaos. The planes of the Burning Blood Lord's chaotic universe were very close to each other. Some planes even overlapped. Because of the close distance, there were naturally many connections. Even if someone ruled a plane, it would be impossible to completely cut off the connection between that plane and the outside world. This was because one simply didn't know when their plane would come into contact with other planes and create a new plane channel. Tsing-Hui shuttled through these planes. As a powerhouse above the legendary realm, he tore through the planar barrier and returned to the plane at a very fast speed. It took him less than half a year to arrive at the Maple Realm. The Maple Realm was a large plain that was a dozen times larger than the one the Yin family was in. Its area could be considered powerful among the many primary planes in the chaotic universe. In the history of this plane, one powerhouse after another ascended to a higher plane and became a legendary life form was born. Even now, there are still many forces in this plane that had legendary powerhouses behind them. It was just that these legendary powerhouses lived in the higher planes most of the time and did not easily show themselves. The legend rank powerhouses weren't present, but there were quite a few starlight and moonlight rank cultivators living in this plane. The oldest families had even specially dispatched glorious sun rank powerhouses to take charge of a certain area. Their deterrence was minimal, so as to ensure their rule over the Maplewood Plain. Sing Hui tore through the planar barrier and appeared at the periphery of a city belonging to an unknown force in the Maple Realm. With a sweep of his divine sense, he quickly locked onto the most powerful starlight rank cultivator in the city. This city is not small. There are several cities within 100,000 kilometers surrounding it like stars surrounding the moon. It should be a major city, and there are starlight rank powerhouses overseeing it. I should be able to get a lot of information out of it. Sing Hui murmured. Buzz, buzz. Almost at the same time he locked onto the starlight rank cultivator, an alarm seemed to ring in the city. Then, a light barrier gradually formed, as if to envelop the entire city. Troublesome. Sing Hui took a step forward, and like a destructive meteor falling from the sky, he instantly crashed into the energy barrier that rose above the city. This barrier that could even block a moonlight rank powerhouse instantly collapsed under his impact, exploding into streams of light. Violent explosions occurred in several places in the city at the same time. Clearly, Sing Hui's collision was too fierce, and even the areas responsible for supporting the barrier were destroyed due to the energy shock. After crashing into the city, Sing Hui's figure flashed and arrived at the City Lord's mansion. Like before, he released his legendary aura and immediately caused many guards to fall to the ground. Who is the City Lord? I have something to ask you. This lowly one is the City Lord of this city. Greetings, my lord. I did not know that you were coming and did not welcome you. Please forgive me. Soon, a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes ran out from the City Lord's mansion and saluted with a fearful expression on his face. I want to ask for directions. How do I get to the Sada Empire? Sada Empire? The man in luxurious clothes was startled. This lowly one doesn't seem to have heard of this empire. Sing Hui frowned. This empire should belong to a foreign empire. It should have arrived more than 4,000 years ago. A foreign empire. More than 4,000 years ago. The man in luxurious clothes immediately thought hard. Instead, an old man with platinum rank cultivation beside him whispered, My lord, if it's a foreign force from 4,000 years ago, it should be the overlord 3 billion kilometers to the south. Grand Duke Sada was promoted 1,000 years ago. It said that this Grand Duke Sada came from another plane when he was conferred the title of Marquis. Due to the chaos in their plane, even his empire was destroyed. He had no choice but to bring the royal family to the Maple Plain and seek refuge with the White Knight Empire. White Knight Empire. Grand Duke Sada, are you sure? Can I ask this lord about the strength of the Sada Empire? If his strength matches up. The old man was still discussing with the man in luxurious clothes. Sing Hui, who had heard their conversation clearly, could already conclude that this Sada Empire must be the country where immortal Emperor Songhai was from. Without wasting any more time, he flew towards the south where the White Knight Empire was located. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.